All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to discuss Bitcoin and the most important price that it must get above. We have a lot to talk about today. There are literally about 1.5 million different kind of averages one could speak of when looking for that potential resistance. We have already broken out of what I interpreted as being one of the most key resistance levels already. So as far as I am concerned, Bitcoin is trading above that level, I will be more than okay with looking for bullish entries. But we'll see what it does. Obviously, nobody knows, and no average is going to be a better average. But we're going to discuss a lot of them and a very crucial price for Bitcoin to get above in today's live stream. And then obviously, we'll talk about the macro stuff as well, and we'll look to open some trades. Currently, yesterday we were watching Fartcoin for the short. Fartcoin rolled over. It did not roll over in the morning. It literally waited until the second part of the day before it ultimately did roll over. But nonetheless, it rolled over. We'll discuss why we were looking for that to roll over, what was happening yesterday that gave us a slightly more bearish than bullish bias. But it wasn't hugely bearish. It was just, there was a situation where everything just kind of felt off, if you will. But Bitcoin ultimately did do good. It did give us another upside continuation day. So let's first just talk about Bitcoin, and then we'll line up any trade. I'll just go ahead and tell you the only thing that I'm looking at for a trade today is going to be Zcash. And the area that it is currently trading at, I like, but there's a level just above that I would potentially like more if it were to move above yesterday's high, which is setting right here, and that is the midpoint of the month. So I am looking for shorts on Zcash, either here at 450 or as high as 471. We'll discuss all of that, but this is what I'm currently looking at for a short opportunity today. I don't think there is a trading opportunity on Bitcoin today at these levels, and we'll talk about why. So first and foremost, Bitcoin trading at $96,978. It's a lot better than being down at 89, although I would love to see it above 100. But like I said earlier, we've already taken out what level that I thought was going to be the most crucial level, and that was, of course, December's high. So let's go ahead and discuss what we have here objectively speaking. Then we'll look more into the subjective style of analysis, and then we'll focus on all of the averages that are out there. So first and foremost, last year closed out the year down. It was bearish. It was down over 20%. Some people, like myself, look at 30% to be Bitcoin's bear market. If it's 20 for you, you're still in a bear market. All right, so with that being said, what are you doing this year? Well, this year, you are up on the year. This is your yearly opening range, brand new year, brand new month, brand new quarter. What happened last year is in the past. What we will be trading on moving forward is what is happening now. So we're not even going to focus really too much on what happened last year. You should approach price in the way that if you were an author and you were writing an article, how would you describe what Bitcoin is doing? How I would describe Bitcoin is doing is Bitcoin is up on the year. It is up currently about 10.75%. However, it is down from the last all-time high that it had. And from that point, I guess you could say that Bitcoin is down roughly, I know it's just over 20% or just, 23%. So Bitcoin is almost out of bear market territory. You are closing days currently, multiple days above the daily 21 exponential moving average. For me, that constitutes more of a bullish near term. However, the weekly is still under the weekly 21. So very, very subjective analysis when looking at averages only. You are up on the year. So that is what Bitcoin is doing. It is currently making higher highs and higher lows inside the monthly range. It is making higher highs and higher lows inside the weekly range. And currently today, it is an inside candle. You are trading inside yesterday's range. So right here, delineated by the white line, is December's high. That was the most crucial, in my opinion, resistance to break out above, as you have to move above that price to be able to say you are seeing upside continuation. Getting above the price is good, but continuing above the price is more important. So we have broken out above that level. You can look back here. You can clearly see that that level was resistance, as when you set that high, you retested it in January and failed. Came down in to a lower high bounce. You had the 21 exponential moving average down here. You had all kinds of things down here that said that this would be potential higher low support. That is what we were looking for. We were looking for a bounce out of this area. We were looking for a break out above December's high. That is what we got. Our positioning wasn't that great because we got stopped out Tuesday, but we should have retook the trade instantly. I was just running my mouth. So anyways, we missed that, but that is what we were looking for. So that is what we have right now, and everything does look good and constructive. Now, if you are analyzing what took place in November of last year to now, well, then obviously this is still bearish. It still is bearish, right? It still has this bearish looking pattern. I would argue and say that you've broken out of anything that could be considered as a bear flag. Basically, right now, what you're going to be looking for are potential areas of resistance if you are looking for shorts. If you are looking for longs, you will be waiting for higher low support, and you will be looking for that area to hold, and that is where you would be positioning. I think as of right now, with the macroeconomic situation and circumstances that we currently have, I think you should be buying dips. There are a lot of other people out there who think you should be selling resistance. So you're just going to have to make the best decision that you can with the tools that you have at your disposal. I am not bearish. I do not think that what we are seeing right here, right now, is the same as what we saw back in 2022, as circumstances were much different back then. Circumstances meaning, we were in an absolute insane, give me 1 second here. We were at an absolute insane skyrocketing inflation, right? It was just blasting off to the upside. And the Fed was going to start hiking rates in November of 2022 to get ahead of that skyrocketing inflation. That was, in my opinion, what drove the bearish narrative for Bitcoin in 2022. It had nothing to do, or it had a little to do with, obviously, the 4-year cycle model. We were looking at it, and we basically said, if the 4-year cycle model is going to work, you should be looking for shorts in November and December. But we were shorting Bitcoin because of the skyrocketing inflation and aggressive rate cuts that were about to come. We don't have that right now. The only thing that we have in common with these two cycles, last bear market cycle and this one, is the 4-year market cycle theory. That is it. This cycle, when Bitcoin made the fresh all-time high and dropped, it dropped almost 52% before it went into a sideways consolidation, which most people were calling back then a Wyckoff accumulation. We were calling a distribution, simply because we were trading under the year open. We opened the year up back in 2022 and went down. Okay, that's key. That's super important. You opened up a brand new year, spent 3 days trading above the year open, and then dropped under it and proceeded to trend for many days before you then went into sideways consolidation. So then we went through a period of about 5 weeks when we traded back up, liquidated all the consolidation highs, retagged the yearly opening range, and this is where the distribution started to happen. people that are professionals back then, we were looking at it as an opportunity to sell based on the current year trend back then. And the current year trend back then was this was a lower high. So we sold there based on that info. And then obviously Bitcoin dropped. And then this huge drop, it was based on other circumstances. You had Celsius, which was a big exchange at the time, collapse. You had FTX, which was a big exchange at the time, collapse. All of those exchange collapsings is what caused and helped the downside move in 2022. It was after those collapsed exchanges stopped happening, that's when Bitcoin put in a floor and accumulated its way back up to fresh all-time highs. So this year, we have the 4-year market cycle. There are things happening on the macro. China is literally preparing for war. You have amassed a lot more debt in the U.S. economy. The economy is doing good, right? Inflation is down at manageable levels. Job losses are down at manageable levels. You don't really have any inflationary things happening. You don't really, tariffs could be looked at as inflationary, but is that going to cause a massive spike in inflation? Well, it hasn't yet. So we have that. And Trump's been in office for a year. So it hasn't started yet. As far as the dollar being devalued and all that, the printing and stuff like that, that's a good reason to be a buyer of Bitcoin, not a good reason to be a seller of Bitcoin. But anyway, we did drop 36% on these lows down here. So when you look at this pullback, it wasn't the 30% bear market line that caused people to sell. It was the yearly open. That's what caused people to sell. You also had a few averages in here. You had the weekly 21 exponential moving average. You also had the short-term realized profits average, which is where we are right now today. So go take a look at that. Here is your short-term holder realized price. This is just people that are holding Bitcoin out 155 days. So if you bought Bitcoin anytime within the last 155 days, you are considered a short-term holder, and the realized price right now is 97,000, almost on the dot. So this is an average, just like an EMA or a VWAP or any other average, and you are tagging that. So in theory, obviously anybody that has bought 155 days are in the red. That's what this line delineates. If you are a short-term holder and you bought 155 days ago, you are in the red. So what people assume will happen now is those people will sell, and they could, because price is breaking back up high enough to get them closer to a break-even price or a break-even spot. So they're going to bail, and it's possible. It is 100% possible. I'm sure we do see a little bit of sideways price action in this area based on all the averages. This is one average. As also we have, if we go back over here real quick, you'll see that the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly is positioned right here. That is also going to be a potential resistance spot. And then if you retrace with the Fibonacci retracement tool, the November monthly range, which is the monthly range that broke down out of this distribution, this would be a little bit where your midpoint is around 95.8. Your 618 retracement is all the way up to 99.4. So you also have Fibonacci's in this area that people could buy or sell with. There are a lot of levels to look for as far as, what could cause people to start selling. But we have to see, what happened when these lows were made. Obviously, people were accumulating. We know the sellers lost control of price. Let's go back and grab that December open real quick, just so you can see how that area did in fact act as resistance. Right there, boom. And then we'll go into the 4-hour chart. There you go. So right here is your December open. So when Bitcoin opened the month of December, opened the month up with very extreme volatilities, both down and up, setting the monthly high. Then you set a higher high, and then you never set a lower low. So if the sellers were in control of Bitcoin's price during December, then sellers would have, in theory, been able to make a lower low. They were not. So there's that. And then here is the December open. You can see how it was clearly acting as resistance, 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 resistance. This was the breakout. Boom, boom, boom. Set that fresh monthly high in January, taking out December's high. And then here is your higher low pullback. Where does that higher low pullback happen at? Prior resistance. When support or resistance get flipped, that's usually a decent sign for that direction trade. In this scenario, prior support or prior resistance became support, set in higher lows, and here is that expansion. So for the bears, they have not been in control of price since the December open. Now, if you look at price the way that it really, for what it really is, then you can see with this consolidation, this zone through here, this would be considered fair market value, because this is where price began to compress. So we don't know, it's not going to be the low and it's not going to be the high. Fair market value is going to be the midpoint of that area. So the fact is, we were unable to make fresh lower lows before breaking out to the upside. This does feel more like a legit breakout than it does a selling opportunity. If you were in the red and you were waiting to be a seller, well then do your thing. You know what I mean? Don't take a lose. I mean, you should have taken the loss already or realized the loss already. But if you haven't, you're getting ready to get a chance more or less to get out break even. Whereas the more time goes on, you've got the January opening happening or occurring right at fair market value. And the fact that price is leaving that area does suggest seller exhaustion. Okay? So new sellers, the sellers from back in November and October, could in fact come back over here and start to attack price at a higher point, as if they truly believe that there is going to be another downside leg of price in the future. Then they will be encouraged to put on new short positions up at these prices. At which point, though, I must ask, would we no longer consider Bitcoin to be in a bear market? Is it 20%? If that's the case, it's right above you. You've got the 21 exponential right above you. You've got 20% from all-time highs right above you. And you've got short-term realized price average right above you. So clearly this will be the secondary main part of resistance. We don't know exactly what price that resistance will be yet. We got to let price be discovered, right? We have to let the buyers and sellers duke it out here in the next coming days to discover that. Once we have that discovery, we can then act on it. All right. But right now, looking for shorts is ill-advised. You would probably wait for at least a lower high, lower low to be established. But if you're trying to just short randomly right here, I mean, you can. You are trading as an inside day today. So basically, the best place to look for shorts inside of today's range is going to be the daily open, the current day high, and then yesterday's high. Right? Those are the only three places that make sense to attack with a short position. So those are going to be the three places where price is going to need to basically be discovered. So you can strike three lines if you wish. Yesterday's close is also going to be today's open, your current intraday high, which is there, and then yesterday's high right here. So you've got three objective prices to watch for short side sets. You are currently trading at those areas right now. So you know my rules. My rules tell me that I should be looking for longs whenever price is consistently closing multiple days above the 21 exponential, but the weekly exponential overrides the daily. So since we are still closing weeks below the weekly 21, we can have a sell side bias as per rules, right? So if you were looking for that short, these would be the areas that you would be looking to put that position on. We have about 7 minutes to the bell, and this swing high fell short of taking out the day high, right? So you wouldn't even have been able to put on a position there as of yet. But when you get the bell, you know, if price gets back up in here, maybe then you can throw on a short with a very tight stop. You don't want to be holding risk if price is trading above 97,176 because it is most likely going to here. So instead of just setting through all of that downside, you could just simply close the trade and wait to put a new trade on here, or wait for price to fall back under here. These are your best two objective levels to look to put shorts on if you have a sell side bias on Bitcoin. So we'll see. I think you're a little bit early. Yesterday we were looking for it to roll over based on the VIX because the VIX was exploding. So let's go take a look at the VIX real quick. I do have a current position open on the one that I'm watching, which is Zcash here. I'm just simply watching 4-hour res. If price starts to trade above that, I'm going to exit and wait for a fresh day high and then look to put the short on again. And that would be the last time that I would even attempt to short. So I wouldn't even take 3 losses on this trade today. 2 would be good enough for me. I've been watching this all morning. I just put it on a little while ago because it did give us a slight rejection. So you can see how it was making higher highs on the 30-minute candles or higher lows. I don't necessarily want to start putting risk onto the downside when it has been trending up. So what I want to usually see is at least some sort of a rejection, and that just could mean a lower low, at least one. We got it right here. So I was watching 4-hour res. 4-hour res puts my entry right here. And you can see just what happened when this candle opened 30 minutes ago. You traded right back up into 4-hour res with that wick. That was the entry. So this looks good. I like it. Overall structure does look a little bit more weak than it does strong, but we do have XMR making fresh all-time highs. So this is also a privacy token. People love privacy tokens. They are hard to short and expensive in most exchanges. But anyway, let's go up and take a look at the VIX real quick. So the VIX yesterday was exploding. It was breaking out. It was making fresh weekly highs. I over-analyzed it. So you can see these 2 white lines up here on the VIX. Top left chart is the VIX. Basically, this is your December open, and this is your December high. If I would have been paying attention to where both of those objective prices were, then as the VIX was trading up into this area, I would not have been bearish on Bitcoin. But because the VIX was breaking out above the prior week's high with upside continuation, I had to be very cautious looking for long setups on Bitcoin because volatility was expanding. And when volatility expands to the upside, usually risk products fall. And that is exactly what happened here on the S&P 500. So let's go right there and show you that downside move that happened yesterday. But when this is happening, it doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside when I want to put long positions on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is even riskier than the S&P 500 in, broader market context. Bitcoin maximalists, like I'm getting more and more, becoming more and more a Bitcoin maximalist every single day. I will short Bitcoin if the short is warranted. I myself would rather short coins that have no use case, as if I'm looking to make max profitability on a short side setup. I think that max profitability would come from a weaker asset, not a strong asset. It doesn't make sense to short strong assets. You are typically wanting to be long in that scenario. But we'll see what happens today, as the S&P 500 has recovered, as the VIX did bounce off of the December open perfectly. So now that we're seeing the VIX go back into, go back towards the downside, that could in fact help buyers show up today on risk products. So buyers will be first looking at the previous 4-hour swing low, as that is a higher low. Though if prices are to get down in this area, I'd say you're more risk averse, or you're more risky natured investors would be willing to put long risk on there, and they will also be willing to put long risk on down here. As yesterday we did something similar. We put in a lower low on the 4-hour chart, but the next 4-hour candle, the 7 or the 3 a.m., which is your London session candle, was bought up on the lows. So in a sense, the London traders faded the London move. When the London session opened, price was not making a fresh day high. It was heading in the direction to make a fresh day low. Here is your day open. So when you were trading down here through the London session, you were trading at day lows. So you would fade that. And that's what they did. They faded the low day in the London session, and New York came in, they bought it up as well. And that was your expansion yesterday, but it fell short of the weekly 21. We know this level is going to act as resistance. So on the first initial push, we would typically want to see that area act as resistance. What we don't want to see is Bitcoin trading back down around the daily 21, as that could indicate more weakness in the market than strength. So what we want to see is we want to see another higher low support. We did get that yesterday. I would love to see that happen again today, as we did get this fresh breakout above the objective resistance being December's high. I typically do want to see that hold as resist or as support, and then prices give you that 1, 2, 3 days of trending to the upside to show that the breakout is in fact legit. And we did get a couple days of continuation. So today is day number 3. And as long as, in my opinion, as long as you are trading at or above yesterday's low, you could be a buyer. I wouldn't be looking to buy it, obviously, this morning, as it is Thursday. It's late week. The weekly range is already expanded. You're already putting in a 3-drive formation where you have the expansion or initial break of resistance. The weekly close is resistance. This is a break and hold above. You have a retest of that resistance, which in fact doesn't hold. Then your third candle or your 3-drive is giving you that expansion or that continuation. So we are in the process of looking really good and really constructive here, but obviously we know we are in potential areas of resistance now. So we'll see what happens with it today. It's the best analysis you're going to get no matter where you go. I've given you objective analysis, subjective analysis. I've given you pretty much everything that you need to make trading decisions. Hopefully you make the right decisions. That's what we always want, but we don't often get, right? We do get stopped out quite a bit. And the simple reason for that, and I don't mean this channel or this community, I mean traders in general, we do get stopped out frequently because intraday, intra-week chaos is inevitable. It is inevitable. You have billions of people across the world taking trading decisions every second of the day based on different reasons, and that just creates market volatility. So we'll see what happens here. I do like what is happening with Zcash. I do want to see continuation to the downside hold. I don't like what we did yesterday. Obviously, this is a ginormous big bullish candle breakout. We saw the breakout coming yesterday. I told my community to wait and allow the breakout to happen. Basically, what we were looking at yesterday was right in here. We saw that the deltas were pretty bullish. They were coming into the New York session pretty bullish. You were seeing upside expansion on this candle. You can also look at the RSI right here where you broke out above the 50, came back into the 50 as a perfect retest, and it held. And then there is the expansion. So we were not looking to short this move as it expanded in the upward direction. Now that we've tagged the midpoint of this month's range, last month's range. Wait, is it? No, it is this month's range. There it is. My bad. Got all sidetracked there. We did, in fact, test the midpoint of this month's range. We do want to see selling pressure hit there. And we did get selling pressure. So now we watch previous swing highs, this one and that one, and then we put our risk on at one or the other of those places. Right? So now what we want to see for the short setup to keep working is, first and foremost, we must break through this low. You also have the objective December open here. It did act as support, so it could act as support again. But if we break through here, I like my chances of it breaking down through here. On the daily chart, it isn't going to look like a sell. It's going to look like a support test or a midpoint check, because this is a legit breakout until proven otherwise. How do you prove otherwise? Well, first we got to at least get a day closed back under the midpoint. As long as you're not closing days under this candle's midpoint, the pressure is to the upside. So the bulls currently have order flow. And when the bulls have order flow, they generally try to keep that. So January VWAP coming in here as well. You've got the midpoint, January VWAP. You've got the day 21 EMA. You got a whole lot of confluence for this to be resistance on a technical basis. This up here is a very small volume node on the month of January's order flow. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So basically what I'm going to do is just put January's data on the screen and then pull up a session volume profile. It's the entire January session. So it's going to be a visible range volume profile. You can see right here, there is a very, very tiny volume node here. These aren't guaranteed places to take shorts. They're just good places to look for at least a price to give you a bit of wiggling, if you will, right? A pitter patter. So if we break out above yesterday's high, I'm not interested in the short until we get up into this gray box. If this gray box then starts to give me this sideways style price action, then I can look to put that short on once again up there. Because if I'm right, the amount of money that I'm going to lose on trying to short here, taking the stop and allowing price to get up here and putting that short on again would be approximately $60. And then I will make, if I'm right, a lot more than $60. So that's the whole general rule about trading. Like, you risk small amounts so that way when you are right, the right trade makes more money than the two wrong trades. And we'll see what happens up here, but we pretty much have a good idea. The year opened up weak. It tried to break back to the upside. This was a swing high reversal or a failure swing high pattern. There's a bunch of different names for this exact scenario, but basically this is buyer exhaustion, and then the sellers took off with it, and then you had that bad news come out where the entire dev team left the Zcash, and boom, boom, boom. So obviously for the month and the year, you are bearish you are making fresh yearly lows. And so far, we want to see if are we going to make lower yearly highs. And if that happens, then I want to be a seller. So judging by what's happening to MicroStrategy, I'm assuming Bitcoin is seeing a bit of sell side on the open. And it is. So yeah, it fell short of taking out that last or prior swing high. You're just now tagging, I guess I already have one there, just now tagging the last 4-hour swing low. So sellers are going to need to see it blast through there, and it just did. Down here will be the next potential area of support. The VIX is currently bouncing off of the day low. The S&P 500 currently bouncing off of the 69.66 level. So it makes sense that we are seeing Bitcoin pull back into 4-hour support here. We want to see it hold. MicroStrategy is currently trading under 4-hour support. So this is where we would want to see that support hold. MicroStrategy is currently trying to put that area as the midpoint of this current expansionary phase. That could indicate a supply test as resistance. This would be your supply candle because it could not break out above resistance, and in fact the sellers were hammering it there. That's what makes this candle supply. So we know there was more selling taking place in this range than buying because now price is under it. So on retests of supply and as high as resistance, you could, in theory, look for that continuation if you have a bearish bias. I do not. So I would like to see Bitcoin hold support here. If it doesn't on an intraday basis, then obviously tomorrow I would want to see support hold here. If we blast through both of these levels today, then you could think that the sellers have got it again, right? As you are still under that weekly 21 and under other resistances. Now, the buyers are going to be looking to put risk on down here around 95.7. Quite a bit of momentum into this area. We can look at the daily session volume profile and see what we got going on. So yesterday, the point of control migrated from the bottom to the top of the range, which does indicate top sellers. And then today, so far, the majority of the volume, or at least 70% of the volume, has been traded from 96.4 up to 97. 97 is a big figure. Makes sense that people would sell there as well. Only time will tell if they're right or wrong. A fresh day low and a rejection to go further down would indicate the buyers picking it back up. And let me at least put Zcash on over here so I can keep an eye on what it's doing. As long as, and as well as the VIX and everything else. What is going on here? So the 786 fib extension is what's causing resistance on silver. Basically, dollar's breaking out of its range right now. So if we go look at the dollar real quick and see how the dollar traded in a 4-day range. We call this piano keys. When you put in these sideways days like this, ultimately the buyers were looking to be defending 98.90 and they are winning that battle. You're all the way back up to the December open right here. So basically what we want to see, this be the area the sellers defend. So what could be happening is we do know that China is or has sold $700 billion worth of US treasuries. So that could be what we're seeing here with dollar strength. So I'm not loving the short trade on the dollar as long as they're doing that. But the 30-year is falling back in line which is a good thing, but it's just in a longer term range. Last month was a breakout above the prior 2 month swing highs. This is going to act as intra-month support potentially. What we want to see as Americans is we want to see this fall back under there. We want this heading lower. If the long end of the yields are rising, then that is not good. All right. Yeah, that's not really that great. But anyways, going back to the dollar, what's going on here? No dropped frames. Allow me to pull up a watch list, please. Oh my good God, man. What is your problem? So I have imagined the TLT. Nice breakout here yesterday. This is the level where we needed to see the breakout occur. We tried to get up there last week and then the sellers took back over. That ended up being a trap, and here is the breakout now happening. This is good on the near term. This TLT tracks the 20-year yields. It's the opposite of what the 20-year yields are doing. So what we want to see is we want to see this continue to break out, or at least sustain the breakout. This is the breakout point. So if you're not closing days back under 88.08, you could potentially put on shares. I don't like the idea of trading options on the TLT because it is so very slow, and you could lose your trade simply because of theta decline. Bitcoin getting down to the previous lows. This is a pretty nice move down here. Those sellers are in fact winning the daily range today. For now, could be because the dollar's breaking out. S&P is back to highs, 69.69. Yeah. I think Fartcoin told us a pretty good thing yesterday by breaking down so severely. It just basically told us that, you know, there is a slight, at least when it comes to Fartcoin, a slight bit more risk out there than what some of the Uber bulls are thinking. Right? This breakdown yesterday was severe. In fact, right here is your today open. So you can see how it basically opened, dropped significantly, and has bounced back up into where we were looking for. Prior week's low was where we were looking for that to be support, because it was resistance. Here's the breakout. That support failed. So you could see Bitcoin support fail as well. Let me put Bitcoin up on. Yeah, you are currently trading at you just made a fresh day low on Bitcoin. So you're breaking through where the buyer should have been, or at least try to be defending. We don't want to see Bitcoin get all the way back down to the daily 21. We want to at least see yesterday's low hold as support, as that is the December high. I don't think you're going to get there today, but you could. Yesterday's volatility expansion was large. I didn't really understand why Bitcoin wasn't rolling over yesterday. We were actually looking for it to potentially find resistance yesterday, and it kind of did, but there just wasn't a clear position to put on. So yesterday we were looking for the short on Fartcoin instead, because it was giving us that clear line in the sand as 4-hour res. Now it did chop quite a bit in the morning around that level, so it was not an easy trade. to put on or hold. But it was once you made that fresh day high and you rejected back under the fresh day high, that's when you would have been looking to put the short on. Most likely, as that is typically what we look for on this channel. We want to see prior day highs fail if we're looking for shorts. And that's exactly what happened. The prior day's high failed. We were looking for shorts at 4-hour res earlier in the session. You can see how it broke out above around 11 a.m. and took out that day high. So it did stop me out. And then the stream ended, and after the stream ended, I watched 4-hour resistance, put another position on, and took profits. There is something crazy going on with weeks right now. When you try to put on a profit target, it doesn't matter what percent you put on the order, it picks its own random price for some reason. All right, Bitcoin bouncing at the prior day low, or the prior low of day, I should say, because this is your prior day low, prior low of day. This is where we want to see the bulls show back up. And as long as the VIX is putting in fresh day lows, I would anticipate that happening. I would be more of a buyer because of where the 21 is and where price is. If you look at other averages, like the VWAP, for instance, you'll see that you're also like doing really good on that. You're doing really good on everything. Or let's do it this way instead. Go back over here to the sloppy charts. Get rid of the moving average. So weekly VWAP is now at the December high. That is good. And your monthly volume weighted average price way down here under 2025's yearly opening range. So price looks good for upside continuation. The only thing is there enough demand up this high? We'll see. We shall see. This isn't quite a bearish engulfing, but you might as well call it that. You didn't take out the prior high. That is a lower high. You have now a lower low. So now the bulls must take out or reclaim 97.1. In bullish markets, or when price is bullish, you should be looking to buy on the volatile down moves, right? As long as it's not so volatile to where it's taking out prior day lows. If you're trading inside the previous day's range in a bullish market, you should be looking to take the long side of the trade. That is the most, like the best advice I can give, simply because the market's order flow and momentum is in the upward direction. But for some reason, retail loves to lean more on the sell side. Retail loves to short because shorts, when they work, are usually more aggressive, and you have, larger ranges, and it happens quicker. So I get the reason why, but you need extreme fear and pessimism to be controlling the narrative for big, deep retracements to occur. If the narrative shifts from that pessimism and goes, back into more of the optimistic, then it's going to be more and more difficult to catch big short moves. If you get what I'm saying. If you smell what the rock is cooking, this move right here was just shy of a 2% target. When Bitcoin is bullish or when volatility is low, then a 2% range is about max of what you should anticipate if looking for intraday opportunities. So you should have a take profit sitting somewhere relatively close to this area if you did in fact short the prior swing high. It makes sense. Looking for a nasty breakdown is not really indicative of the market conditions that we currently have. And that could change. There is a lot of chaos out there right now. But it's just when Bitcoin starts getting bullish, it sometimes it seems like it's just better to be on the long side. All right, so ZEC struggling to make that fresh lower low. It got right down there and bounced. If you want to see that on the 5-minute, I'll have to put another line on the chart, unfortunately. So let's go down. As you can see, got real close to taking out that prior 4-hour swing low. We need that to happen if we want to make money on the short side. It literally must happen. Oh, you can see how this bullish reaction happened at that 4-hour low. That's because that's where bulls are going to be. They're going to want to see higher lows. And if they get those higher lows, which they did, and a bullish reaction, you can see how that would draw that bullish order flow right back into the market. Especially when you look at it in terms of weekly range. The weekly range has been rather bullish. As your weekly VWAP all the way down here. So this is where we wanted to look for the short on Zcash. Tuesday I told everybody to let it get back up to test at least the daily 21 exponential. I honestly did not think it would do it in one day. I did not think it would do it on Wednesday, but it did. So we'll see what happens. If we start taking these lows out, it'll feel a lot better on the sell side, but we'll see. We do have quite a bit of confluence up here. The day open, the daily 21, the January midpoint. But do the sellers control? That's the question. If you break out above this, clearly the next place to put that short on would be, it would be more or less, we'd be looking for this breakout to be a trap. As we know, short sellers are going to jump on it early. They don't allow price discovery to take place. They're very impatient. So we know that these yesterday's sellers are just setting, their stops are just setting up in here. That's why we're not going to force the issue. If it gets a stop, run, and then shows the advance higher, then we'll wait for it to get to that secondary range where we know or assume price discovery should take place once again. Then we could short it up here in anticipation that this breakout is nothing more than a bullish trap. You're good. We'll go, baby. What? Yeah, so that's the whole thing. I don't know if it's going to break out and be a bull trap. The buyers could come back to Zcash. The macro or the fundamentals on Zcash are the chain can still work without the developers. And they're going to be new developers more than likely in the future. But that initial news did in fact cause a chaotic sell side event. And when we see that happening on lower highs, we tend to look for that continuation. And that's exactly what did take place. So instead of Zcash running back up to all-time highs, it fell short and made that lower high. And then the bad news came out, gave you that breakdown out of this trend. A lot of people were watching that trend. Let me pull Zcash up over here. And the trend that I am speaking of is this right here. So you can see how they were basically buying the trend line. We started to sell up in here because that was the top of the channel. So got to the top of the channel. This is where the buyers needed to defend if they had any chances of a breakout and retesting of those all-time highs. The fact that that bad news played out right in here, that caused enough volume to get that breakdown. I don't expect Zcash getting back up to 520. If it does, then obviously the narrative has shifted back to the bulls. If the bears are going to win here, then this current week's range is a pullback. So looking back at the weekly, here is your breakdown. So we would love to see the midpoint of this candle act as resistance. If it does, then the next week we would be looking for the expansion lower for that 3-bar play. Oh, that tool is dead. I gotta alt delete and kill it. Give me 1 second. I've tried to use it several times and it has not worked. In task, close that down, bring it back. So this week's close and high will be important for next week's positioning. So depending on how this week closes, that will determine next week's positioning. So if this week, for instance, since today's Thursday, you got tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday's price action still. So it could make higher highs up into this area, but we'll pretend like today is Sunday and it's going to close here. So what we would be anticipating for the next range is obviously that candle open. Let's get the right colors here to fit the scheme. We would be looking for a swing high failure above the prior weekly swing high. So we'd be looking for that initial push up to here and rejection. And if you got that, the anticipation would be that this current week would give you a look like this, taking out that low. So the best trade could be next week on Zcash. It might not even be now. Today is Thursday, so it's late in the week, right? Your weekly range has basically already been cemented so far. Now, it could roll over. You could see a nasty down move today or tomorrow and give all of this back. Absolutely. But it is late in the week. So the trade may not be until next week. And if that's what the sellers are waiting for, then we could see Zcash push higher today. That's why I'm telling you, please do not just try to short Zcash all day long, right? Because it may not be the short this week. Zcash might want to close higher on last week's range. It might want to retest last week's open. We don't know. We'll try it here first and see what happens. I do not like this look. And there's only 58 minutes left on this candle. So hopefully these 15-minute swing highs can hold. And we'll see that downside expansion occur in the next hour. Silver did in fact roll over at 93.26 at the 786 of the expansion. Let me show you that real quick. So basically I fibbed this out for everybody to look for areas of potential resistance to play out. And I'll pull this over for you. Basically all I did was use a fib extension tool. I tagged last month's low up to last month's high and then pulled it into this month's low. And that gave us our fib retracement or extensions. This was the 618, here was the 786. So if silver gets all the way up here, then it will be a 100% expansion as from last month's range, which would be insane. But there is an old saying out there when it comes to stocks. I don't know if the same sayings fits on commodities, but when it comes to stocks, there's an old saying out there: if you hit 90, there's a pretty good chance you're going to 100. But you did hit 93.26 on silver. That is where profit taking is happening. This isn't a big enough rejection for me to say this run is probably done, but it was a pretty aggressive move. I would say this aggressive move has more to do with like the dollar breakout. Like dollar strength will obviously be good for silver bears. And dollar weakness would be bad for silver bears. So this week, dollar was basically sideways Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And silver was strong. It was moving up. And then Thursday, you get a strong breakout on the dollar, so silver pulls back. And silver is pulling back at a technical level. So it does make sense. If you are looking to short silver, I think you're on the wrong side of it, but I would anticipate it not pushing that much further above the current 4-hour swing high or the current day high. Nope, your day high is all the way up there because the day opened at 1800. So yeah, this is just an intraday swing high. Your day high is up there. The sellers did get lower lows on that last 4-hour session. So if you see a large breakout above 91.47, I'd be very hesitant about shorting silver today. Or at least wait until it's making fresh day highs and then see, do you get that rejection up there? If you do, then maybe you could put on a short scalp targeting like 88.60. Just give price time to build in a range at least. So that way you got objective levels to work with. Yeah, VIX looks okay here. Let's see if Bitcoin is still pushing. It is not. Let's go back to the other chart. It is less busy. Oh, wait, not this one. Sorry. Totally messed up there. All right, so small bounce. Sellers will come down to these lower highs, as this is going to look like a rejection to them. So you probably will see sellers hitting around 96.4. I would love to see the buyers defend that low, but this point of control doesn't look great for that happening. And then obviously also your deltas look pretty heavily bearish here today. So that just tells us that there are more aggressive sellers hitting the ask or market selling than your limit buying is happening. So it does look okay for downside continuation. You'd be hard pressed to get me to take this long now. But we'll see what it does. Man, that was a violent move on Farcoin. I wish I would have been able to stay in that, but I just couldn't do it. Like I said, I gotta tell my guy that they need to take a look at that. Here, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I've been noticing a few problems. I started noticing it yesterday when basically my entry was way above near-term price. So yesterday my entry, I had been shorting it all the way back here. So basically what I've been doing the whole way down is just selling, taking profits, adding, taking profits, adding, taking profits. So it's just basically been bringing my cost basis lower and lower and lower as I've been scalping the downside move. But yesterday my entry was above this swing high. So I added to the short in this area, and that brought my cost basis down to there. And yesterday, as this thing was making fresh highs, it was saying that my position was in the red. And that should virtually be impossible. If price is under my short entry, I should not be in the red. I should only be in the red when price gets above that red line. So what I found, or what I discovered the issue is right here. So I don't have any stop loss or take profit order on. So when I go in here, I want to put on a partial position to take profits. So watch this. I'm going to put 100%, basically telling the platform that I want to take 75% of the profits off when the market hits 100%. So we'll send that order. And it says it's at 417, right? Okay. Now let's go do that again. Remember, 417. We'll do that exact same thing. Only we'll do something a little bit different. We'll go 165 and same 75%. Send. They fixed it. They fixed it. I did this 3 times yesterday, and all 3 times, no matter what the percent I put in was, it kept going to 417. So maybe they fixed the issue. Well, if I'd have known that, I would have put on a bigger position. Oh, that's not good. That's all right. We may get stopped out of this. They seem to have it fixed now, so never mind. Forget what I was just talking about. Okay, that's good. I didn't even have to say anything this time. Good, good, good. I hate complaining. But it forced me out of that position because clearly I got question marks over my head thinking, why or how on God's green earth could my current position be losing money under my entry for a short? It didn't make any sense. So obviously when I closed that position out at literally like break even though my cost basis was way higher. So I don't know what was going on with that, but hopefully they've got that issue fixed, and I would say they do because that problem is gone. Yeah, Fartcoin, I think yesterday was such a brutal move on Fartcoin. Let's go look at the daily so you can see just how big that was. Like, you literally, not only did you annihilate the prior day low, but you got all the way down to the breakout day's low. So Tuesday, when we had that large bullish move on Bitcoin and alts, every bit of that has been retraced. I don't like that. That does not smell like a bullish crypto market. Now, Fartcoin is a meme token, obviously. It doesn't really have any value other than what near-term speculators are saying the value is by trading, right? But right now, near term is 38.22. So Fartcoin is worth 38 cents on the open market. And that's because of speculators, not because of fundamentals. Fundamentally speaking, this asset has no value. It's not worth anything. It's a total meme token. They did it for the lulz. You know what I'm saying? So in theory, this thing should be worth like 0.0003. Not 38 cents. So I wouldn't begin to assume that Bitcoin's going to have a very negative day or give back literally all of Tuesday's rally and Wednesday's rally, because Fartcoin has. But I do have to wonder if Fartcoin did give all of that back, and Bonk also almost gave all of that back. Not quite yet. Even Pingu as well. Not all of it, a lot of it. This looks more constructive than Fartcoin does. Starts to look like a double top. All right. starts to feel a little bit more weak. Yesterday I was very much concerned for Bitcoin because of the VIX, but today the VIX is acting in a very normal way, so I would anticipate Bitcoin does ultimately find support. But I have been wrong before. All right, let me answer some questions real quick. Good morning, Chan. Good morning. What's up? What's up? Dead Cat bounced to 110. Good morning. Can you go over coin, please? Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Check Bitcoin on 12-hour. Look for hidden bearish. I'll check it, but I mean, I don't really look for that. I don't care about divergence on anything smaller than a daily or a weekly chart. Not really. I understand divergence has to happen, right? Because of how the indicator itself works. It's an oscillator. It does not trend. So it has to, no matter what price does, it will eventually build in divergence, both bullish and bearish divergences, because of how the math is on the indicator. It has to do that so it can oscillate back in the opposite direction. Now, with that being said, that is what some people look for to happen, to start looking for the opposite trade. There is nothing wrong with looking for it, to look for trade setups. You know what I'm saying? I have no problem with it. I just don't I don't do that in my strategies. Like, I look for weekly divergences, daily divergences, but not intraday. Intraday, it's going to pull you into a lot of trades, right? If you're shorting or buying every intraday divergence, that's going to happen so often. So it doesn't really have any bearing in my analysis or my trades, but I can look at it, 12-hour H. So that's a half a day is what a 12-hour chart would be. It is a very good chart to keep an eye on. I love the fact that you are looking at the higher time frame charts for sure, because you can just see so much clearly what's going on. And you're saying specifically of 27th of October. Okay, let me read this again. I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. Okay, so you want me to look on the 12-hour all the way back to October? Okay. And you say hidden bearish divergence on the RSI from the high of October 27. So that's here. Hidden bearish divergence. Compared to now, plus regular bearish divergence. So, okay, if you're calling this swing high with this swing high bearish divergence, fair enough. It is. See, here's my quarrel with that. You would have wanted to see that divergence play out here, right? And these candles that come after. And you would want to see, like, for instance, this candle make a higher close and potentially that higher high to give you that divergence. That would be the signal. And then you would put the trade on and take profits when the RSI gets back to the 50. That would have been the trade. So to say this and this is the divergence instead doesn't make sense to me. Now, I'm not saying that it wouldn't work. Clearly, this is a much higher high and a much higher close, but this is a whole cycle repeat. I mean, this is a reset cycle. Do you understand what I mean? Like, When the RSI came from the 50 back to overbought, that's a brand new cycle. That's not the same cycle. This would have been the bearish divergence playing out. So you would have new signals now. So I'm not exactly sure how what happened back then relates to now based on the indicator, but I see what you're saying. I don't see any bearish divergence from this swing to the next swing. You need that higher, but you're calling it hidden bearish divergence specifically. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're calling. So regular divergence would be a lower low on the oscillator or a lower high, right? Hidden divergence, hidden bearish divergence would be a lower low on the RSI while price makes a higher low, correct? That's hidden bearish divergence. You're looking at the lows for the hidden, not the highs. Let's see what the definition of hidden bearish divergence is so we can get on the same page at least. Because maybe I'm wrong. I'll do both so I can wrap my head around it. Define hidden bullish and bearish divergence. Just so I can wrap my head around it. Because I always thought that hidden bearish divergence was when the oscillator was making lower lows and price was making higher lows. Hidden bullish divergence and hidden bearish divergence. Okay, they use oscillators like RSI, got that, to signal trend continuation, unlike got that. They're called hidden because they're subtler and less obvious than regular. Got that. Okay, here we go. So for regular bullish divergence, you're looking at the bottom of the chart. Price is making lower lows, oscillator making higher lows. Okay, that's bullish divergence. We know that. End of downtrend. Regular bearish divergence, price makes the higher high, oscillator makes lower high. Bearish divergence. So the hidden bearish, price makes a lower high and the oscillator makes a higher high. Okay. So yeah, I was completely wrong. All right. Got it. So because this was a lower high on price, I mean, it wasn't compared to this swing, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, let me see. Oscillator makes a lower high there and price does too. Yeah, maybe he's wrong. I don't know. Hidden bearish. Price action makes a lower high and the oscillator makes a higher high. Yeah, I don't see why I can't see it. I just can't see it. This is the 27th. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know. Could today be bearish on Bitcoin? Yeah. Could it be because of hidden bearish divergence? Yep. Is it because of the 12-hour? Possibly. But it's just easier for me and for me to, because I am trying to teach people how to trade. It would just be easier for me to say, price is trading into the weekly 21 exponential. So we know this is a potential area of resistance. We don't know that this will be resistance, but we do know it could be. So if you are taking trades based on the first initial test of the weekly 21, then the best places to look for those trades are going to be at prior highs. Whether you use the prior 12-hour high, 4-hour high, 8-hour high, or daily high, those are going to be the best places. Because what you're looking for to be right on the sell side is buy side exhaustion, right? And you'll see buy side exhaustion when you make a lower high and reject the higher prices. When price goes up, it says peekaboo and then fades. That's exhaustion. It's just easier to find that weekly 21 than it would be for me to teach somebody what hidden divergence is, if you will. It doesn't mean, though, that that's what's happening because of how the oscillator is calculated. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are running out of momentum. It could literally just mean the RSI has to divert in order to oscillate, right? It's a mechanic in how the oscillator actually functions more than it is meaning that there is buy-side exhaustion. Like, the oscillator isn't going to tell you where supply and demand is or if supply and demand will show up, is what I'm trying to say. It will always give you diverging signals in the future. But people do look for those. I don't. I will tell people when I see divergence, but only in the way that I understand it to be so. And maybe I don't know enough about the hidden divergence to even worry about it, to be honest with you, because we do a pretty good job already of nailing directional bias. I mean, Tuesday we were looking for a bullish breakout when everybody else was bearish, right? So when we did the live stream, here's Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right here on this candle. On this candle, you had already shown resistance to be here at prior day high. So this looked like buyer exhaustion, but we were bullish, right? We were looking to get long at this candle's low. So when this traded back down to the open, I put that bullish trade on. This wick stopped me out, so I was early. To be honest with you, my risk was just too tight. I should have had a wider stop loss, but my entry was golden. I mean, had the stop loss been just a few points lower, we would have captured all of that. So the bias was correct. It was the positioning that was not. It was the trade itself that failed. It wasn't the directional bias that failed. Yesterday we had a bearish directional bias based on what the VIX was doing and what the S&P was doing. And yesterday we were wrong with that bearish bias. So you can look at a lot of different indicators to help you with a bias. I try to simplify things for the newer people, like the ones that they don't quite know all the technical terms yet. They're just trying to learn a profitable system, an easy profitable system. That's what this channel is designed around, mostly. Not teaching all technical analyses out there, because there's a million. There is a lot of people, believe it or not, right now saying that Bitcoin is bearish objectively, and it just isn't true. Like, they're just ignorant. They're not dumb. They're not stupid or anything like that. They're just ignorant to objectivity and factual statements, I guess. Because you're in a new year. Yes, you are off the high, but that does not mean you are bearish. Bearish is under the open. You are not bearish. Not on the month, not on the week. In fact, you haven't been bearish on any day yet except today. Today's the first day that you're trading under the open, which is the definition for bearish. So it's just time frame, right? They're analyzing all of price instead of looking at price objectively. That's it. It's just, it's ignorance, but they're not going to change. I wouldn't want them to change. If what they're doing is successful, keep doing it. I don't care how you get to profitability. I just want to help you get there. But also check Bitcoin liquidation heat map site liquidations on weekly. We know where all liquidity is on Bitcoin by simply looking at chart, right? The liquidity right now is setting above yesterday's high and below yesterday's low. That's where all of the liquidity is on the near term. Now, if you go out last week, last month, last year, then obviously there's liquidity over every single swing high and under every single swing low. But we can look at that indicator as I have it bookmarked. Crypto futures right here. All right, perfect. Liquidations. Heat map right here. So we'll look at 24 hour. Yep. Above the day high. Makes sense. Yesterday's high to be exact. And then the bulk of the liquidity down here is going to be under yesterday's low. Now you still have a lot of liquidity to smoke right here. This is going to be from people taking longs here. And then, of course, people trying to pick the reversal here. So that's why you're heated up right here, right now. From the new trades just taken. And taken a little earlier. Now, if you go out a week, you're probably going to see more above and below. You do. I would say you're not going to see a whole lot of liquidity up here because, like I said, the majority of it was above December's high, which isn't down here. It's up here. But you can see how new liquidity is starting to be built in, at, and around prior swing highs and under swing lows. Yeah, there's a ton of it. It's even if, because the white hot stuff's down here, it would make us feel like it's coming down here for sure, right? It's got to go get that before it can go up. Nope, that ain't true at all. Doesn't have to. Now, will it? I don't know. I don't know. When we put this in right here, this white hot liquidity was down here. Now it's gotten a lot wider and there was only one white hot liquidity down here. Now there's two. But when this low was put in, this white hot liquidity was here. So why didn't price go down there and get that before then moving up and making fresh highs? It's a misnomer thinking that price has to do something because of something. This is good. An indicator is a very good indicator to show you where liquidity is. But you know where it is. It's below and above every single swing. Every single one of them. So you really don't need to look at this. This will give you a bearish bias when you shouldn't have one. Now, obviously, if price fails and gets down here and takes this out, does that mean the indicator was right and I was wrong? No. It means that the sellers from October and November jumped all over January's near-term high. That's what that means. That means they just came down and took the first short opportunity that they could. Because professional traders almost more than likely knew that this high was getting smoked. I knew it was. I knew it was a matter of time. And the reason that I knew it was because the sellers, they got exhausted. They had control of price through here. And there was plenty of liquidity to go get down here. There's liquidity here. There's liquidity here. And there's a ton of liquidity setting under April's low down here. So why didn't it continue and go get that liquidity? Because buyers showed up and forced the sell side exhaustion. So while retail is continuously thinking Bitcoin's going to zero, You have big banks buying up higher lows. Higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. You shouldn't be a seller right now. We've analyzed this like perfect. We've been on the right side of this pretty much since this started. Like, we do a pretty good job of direction here. Yeah, we identified that the seller exhaustion happened when it could not break down and get downside continuation. So literally, when you're chopping like this in extremely fearful scenarios, sellers should be, look what happened here. The sellers were in no way, shape, form, or fashion afraid of those lows. You know what I mean? They were not afraid of these lows. They did not take off positions here. They did not close their longs. Where did they close their longs or their shorts? Here. They're out. They're done. So now they got to wait until they get the liquidation and exhaustion they wanted to see. Well, say they took it there. They did. Some did, because there was that reaction. You got that liquidation and exhaustion. So there they were again. They were wrong. Because here is price above this high. The key high. December's high. Now that doesn't mean it will continue to do that in the future. That just means what happened through here. Because bad news can happen tomorrow and you could get a downside candle that gets all the way back down here in the span of 2 days. Easily. But right now, you're not even threatening yesterday's low. Now, some people would look at this today and say, holy shit, how bearish Bitcoin is. Because they're looking at this chart. And that is extremely bearish. This is a 30-second chart. If you look at a 30-minute chart, Bitcoin ain't bearish. You haven't broken anything yet. You do have a lower low, but it's not a lower daily low. It's a lower intraday low. So you really can't say that the sellers did anything yet. Not until you take this low out. Then more sellers will show up. Retail is the only people selling this. Professionals don't jump on this stuff. They build in positions. All right? They're not day trading. That's first and foremost, but they are taking positions on days. Be careful. This isn't bearish. This is bearish. This is not. So just be careful. I have no problem with looking for shorts. I influence it, especially if you're long only Bitcoin. You must protect your downside risk when there is a lot of fear out there. And there is currently still quite a bit of fear out there. We can look at an indicator and it tells us exactly how much fear is out there. So the stock market is all the way back up into greed territory. Crypto is too already. It was literally just at fear a couple days ago. So, yeah, I influence profit taking through highs, and I try to influence profit taking on shorts through lows. MicroStrategy is pulling back a little bit harder than Bitcoin is. So MicroStrategy looks a lot worse than Bitcoin does. Right? You have taken out yesterday's low on MicroStrategy. So MicroStrategy looks worse today here than Bitcoin does. But in terms of the weekly range, this is an area of support. We don't know if it will be support. Prior week's high, you had to beat that in order to be bullish. So this looks terrible by itself, but looking at the weekly, it looks like an opportunity, right? Like probably should be a buyer here, not a seller. Now up here, you could have been a seller. At the day high, you could have been a seller if you're scalping intraday opportunities. But longer term, yeah, it looks rough, but you're not doing anything yet. You got to start closing days under this thing to get the real sellers back involved. But it does look bad if you look at this. And if you look at any other averages, if you put a 100 and a 200 on there, this looks terrible. Structurally speaking, it is pretty bad. You didn't even get back close to this thing yet. I would rather be a seller when we retest this. And I know it will. That's what separates me from other people. Other people think MicroStrategy is going straight to zero from here. It will not retest the 21. It will. Unless MicroStrategy files for bankruptcy. If MicroStrategy does not file for bankruptcy, and we know they are not, Michael Saylor, we can look at their books. We know they have enough cash to pay their redemptions or what they owe for the next year at a bare minimum. So we know they're not going out of business this year. So the probabilities of this 21 being retested are very high. You can go back in time and look, man, it's the mean. It's the mean. It will eventually get retested. Then, and only then, I want to see what price does in and around it. Then I'll make a better decision. Obviously, this still looks really bad, though. But eventually, it's going to get... Now, it doesn't mean it's going to get back to $229 a share. It could trade sideways for the whole year, and the moving average could slowly and slowly and slowly migrate its way down to price. So that could happen. We don't know what's going to happen, but I know this is a pretty damn good buy. You were massively oversold here for a long time, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. Yeah, it's probably going to bounce. If I had to bet, I bet it bounces before it pukes again. Sellers will attack it on higher lows. So they sold the highs here because of what? That margin restriction or the margin requirement that got announced. Remember that? That's what caused this bearish move. Sellers took profits at the 21. They gave it a few weeks. Boom, hammered it right back down through there. Finally, price bounces again. Spends 4 weeks here chopping everybody up. And then boom, down it went again. They have time. They can wait. They know MicroStrategy is not going out of business. Not this year. Maybe next year. But this year, they're good. Okay, here is ZEC now. That's looking pretty damn good. That's what I wanted to see. It's what I like to see. So we do pretty good here on this channel, man. We do right. We do it all right. Looks like my short entry knocked the top off those candles, don't it? You can do this too. Of course, my short entry didn't knock the top off this candle, but I didn't take the short entry there. I took it here. I sat in a little bit of pain. But as long as it's not above that, I don't have to worry, right? Because it's not advancing. It's still inside. Yeah. Knock the top right off those bodies. I'm a price analyst more than I am a technical indicator analyst. I like price. Price is king. Price is the arbiter. It dictates whether you're a winning or a losing trader. Price is king. All right. Good stuff. I'm under positioned on ZEC because I couldn't put a full size position on and set in that trade. If I would have put, I normally would open the position with $500 instead of $2, but I knew if it traded back up, oh, I'm on the wrong screen. If I traded back up, or if it traded back up to this high, it would, if with a $500 position, it would be a $60 loss. Or a $70 loss. You see what I mean? So I had to take a smaller position. Also, because of what happened yesterday, I was kind of cautious. A little bit nervous that that same thing might happen again today. But it didn't. I haven't been in the red with price under my entry at all today. With price above my entry, I was obviously in the red. But that's what I want to see for downside continuation. Now, it doesn't mean we will get it. So if you shorted Zcash here with me, you should probably take profits on that move. Just so that way you don't get stopped out later on the whole position. I would rather you take a piece off and get stopped out on the house's money instead of getting stopped out of your money. I'm not going to do it because I'm anticipating a bigger move lower, and I did pretty good on Fartcoin yesterday. Hit it for over $800. So I'm not going to take profits on this. I will actually add to it. But here's what can happen, right? It looked good for us the other day, too, when it broke down below support. It even closed under support. So I told you guys on Tuesday, if it fails here, you could look for shorts. It didn't fail there. So I had to close my trade out yesterday while it was making fresh highs because it was doing the opposite of what I thought it was going to do. So I waited for it to break out, get up here. Show me a weakness sign. There's that weakness sign. I'll jump on. Same place. That's supply. And now we're getting the breakdown. So that's a pretty good signal. We already know this asset is weak. It is trending lower. It is already making fresh yearly lows and under the yearly open. It is bearish on the month. It is bearish. Well, it's only bearish on the month. It's still bullish on the week. The week open is down there. Wait a minute. Do I have the right week open on? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so you're still bullish on the week down here. And this could be support. It was support last time. It traded in this area. 409 became support. So 409 could be support again. So make sure you're taking profits. You also have the weekly VWAP, which is just the volume weighted average price. So as long as you're closing 4-hour candles above this green line, the bulls are still in control of this asset. This right here was a bear trap. because it did give you that weakness look. But clearly it was wanting to retest that daily 21 exponential. So we bounced here off of the weekly 21 exponential. So it makes sense that we would bounce up to the daily 21. And if this, if the sellers were going to look for downside continuation, is a good spot for them to apply that risk again. Obviously they did, because it's moving lower. Now, I don't know if new sellers will jump on it. We'll see. But December's open would be probably about as high as I would want to see the next 4-hour session trade to. As long as it could keep closing under this, I would be more than okay with shorting that as well. But we are on the wrong side of the weekly VWAP looking for shorts up here. We are on the right side of the monthly VWAP looking for shorts up here. So far, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. MicroStrategy is pushing on lows. So here goes Bitcoin. It's making a fresh day low right now. Not good. Come on, bitty boy. You gotta hold. You gotta hold. Yesterday's low is down here. I do not want to see it get down here to yesterday's low. Yesterday's open is the next place. I'd be hard pressed to buy it. Because it's late in the session, once you get beyond 10:30, becomes a little bit more difficult for me to put on new positions. I like putting positions on around 9:30. Like 8:30 to 10:30 is like the sweet spot. Because if you're going to be right, you're going to see that expansion happen. Usually within that time frame. We do this over and over daily, every other day, pretty much publicly. And we know, we have enough data to tell us that if we're right on direction, that direction usually happens pretty soon after 9:30. So the sellers that sold at 9:30, right here is your 9:30 open. You got a nice little push up. They jumped on it. And the expansion happened rather quickly this morning, which is kind of scary because we were expecting that yesterday and it didn't happen yesterday. So because it didn't happen yesterday and it's happening today, I don't love that. But I'm still bullish as long as we're above yesterday's. I'm still bullish as long as we're above the daily 21. I don't want to see a retest of that this quickly, though, as that would suggest near-term weakness, not strength. Hopefully we don't get that retest. Calling for a new trend low because of my system of finding hidden bearish divergence. You can call for it. It may happen. It may happen. So you're saying you're trading hidden or regular divergence, but only in the direction of the trend. My trend definition. There you go, right there. I'm glad you said that. At least you are aware that your trend definition is subjective, right? Okay, but 50 EMA below 200 EMA downtrend. Yep. That is what usually, that is what the normal average technical analysis says. If your averages are all bearish or bearishly positioned, then the asset is bearish. Yep. But objectively, it is not bearish on the year. Objectively, it is up on the year. It is up on the month. It is up on the week. So the larger trend is down. Yep. But the subjectivity comes in to at what point? Like, where is your starting point for that trend? you don't really have a starting point for that trend. You're looking at averages. So it will be subjective. That's what an average is, right? An average is very subjective. Well, it's not. It's by math, it's objective, but there is no starting point when it comes to moving averages. The starting point is when you finally get that 200th daily candle, as that is when the 200th moving average begins. So yeah, I get what you're saying. If you're making money, man, don't fix it. Don't change it. I don't want you. If you're listening to my voice and you make money in the markets successfully and over and over, it's repeatable and you have proof, do not change what you are doing. Change nothing. Our motto is, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Do not fix it. But, you know, calling for new lows because the 50 is below the 200, yeah, it could happen. A lot of people look at that, right? A lot of people. It's number one indicator on this chart. The averages. And there they are. All beautiful in their amazing grace. Yep, the weekly 200 is even under the 200 exponential on the daily. Not a great sign. On the weekly, it's still bullish, right? Still very bullish on the weekly, given your definition. The 50 is way above the 200. Oh, it's a time frame, right? Preference of time frame. If I go over to the 4-hour chart, all of these moving averages are bullish. Yeah, it's just a matter of time frame when looking at averages. But the objective analysis is, like, if I was going to write an article about Bitcoin, I would have to say Bitcoin is up on the year 10%. Well, it's not up 10% anymore. It's up 8%, right? It's up 1.3% minus 10.6%. That's how much it's up on the year. Is it up on the day? Nope. But it is up on the week. It is up on the month. It is up on the year. It's up on the quarter. It's up on everything except today. Today it is bearish. So we'll see if the bulls can... Oh, we don't need this. I don't look at moving averages pretty much on anything lower than a daily either. I like you looking at averages on the daily. I think it's a really good idea. Yeah. If the system works, don't fix it. I don't know if we'll see new lows just because there's hidden divergence, but basically price will do whatever people decide they want to do, right? Like, if people think Bitcoin, if more demand comes into Bitcoin this year, Bitcoin will not make new lows. It will make new highs. But if there's more supply, then Bitcoin will make new lows. That's how these markets work. There is a great indicator you can look at, and it's free here on BitcoinMagazinePro.com. And for instance, this is the short-term holders, but you can look for long-term holders also, right? And this is a good indicator as well, because long-term holders are more of your macro folks, right? And we can see that they have been selling, long-term holders. So whether you want to call this smart money or banks or whatever, right? Bitcoin, like the people that were early, it doesn't matter. What we can see is that those people, those longer term holders, they were selling since July. They were taking profits. They started accumulating on the April lows. This is your April low right here. They started accumulating on those April lows, and then Bitcoin started making fresh highs as your long-term holder supply moved up with price. They started selling in July. That's when it topped out. So they started selling. Whenever your long-term holders are selling, you can call that price range distribution, not accumulation. Okay? So looking at it in terms of supply and demand, what is this chart telling us? Well, it's telling us that there was some heavy sell-side pressure from long-term holders going all the way back to July, and then Trump came out and announced 100% tariffs on China, and that caused a massive black swan event, liquidating over $20 billion from Bitcoin's open interest. That sparked a cascading selling event from long-term holders, because back then they felt as if though those tariffs were going to affect Bitcoin's price. So they began selling aggressively. Now, because this line has basically been going sideways, as long as it goes sideways and up, we can say that at least some long-term holders are accumulating. They are not distributing, because this line is not going down. If this line starts to go down in the future, even if Bitcoin is making higher highs, that is a warning signal. That would be a very good indication that we should be looking for lower lows. But as of right now, we don't have that data. The data says that there was long-term accumulation happening because your line went down and made new lows. So they were accumulating even when Bitcoin was trading into those December highs. You can see the price action. It's right here. Right there. You traded up back into December's highs. That's when these guys started accumulating. They started accumulating at December's high. Is this line above? It is. So is price above? It is. If this starts to expand aggressively to the upside, I would not be looking for fresh yearly lows. Only if this starts to go down would I be looking for fresh yearly lows. Very good indicator, and it's free. So far, we've been looking at it for about 5 minutes and no ad pop-up. Very good website. Here, I'll put it in the chat for you guys. It's a very good indicator. You can use it with your other analyses. If it starts to go down, yep, I'd be very concerned with Bitcoin making fresh highs. But so far, this is looking good. So far, that's looking good. So far, Bitcoin is closing multiple days, not just one, above the 21 EMA. So that means we're in recovery. We're not in decline. Objectively speaking, Bitcoin is in recovery. It's already bounced. Look at that. This is what I'm talking about. I would have been hard pressed to be a buyer down there because it's 10:45. If this would have happened at 9 or 10, I would have bought this. Timing is everything for me. But that doesn't mean it's going to stay doing that. This could be another higher or a lower high on the intraday. Right? It didn't really do anything. It didn't make a fresh high yet. So this does not mean that the buyers have it. This is intraday chaos. But the fact that it isn't taking out yesterday's low is a really good sign. Like, as long as that continues to be the fact all day, I would have more of a near-term bullish bias. But that's just how I analyze price. Yeah. So, I mean, add that indicator, and that will, I think, only help you find better shorts, to be honest with you. I don't know what how long are you anticipating those shorts to hold either. I generalize here on this channel a lot because I generally think most people are day trading, if you're still listening to me, right? And day trading is what I do. I have no problem with it. I like it. I actually love it. I think it's a fantastic way to add capital to one's bank account. You just got to do it the right way, right? You got to understand that no matter what indicators we look at, it's not going to tell us what price is going to do, especially on a daily basis. Indicators are almost useless. Intraday indicators are almost useless. Almost useless. Zcash, so far, not able to even retest December's open, so I kind of like that. But this candle just opened. You got 4 hours to go. A lot of time. But yeah, I'm liking this look. Weak assets are the assets I want to hold shorts long term on. I want to hold longs on strong assets. Assets that appreciate, we want to be buyers and hold. Like right now, I don't necessarily want to buy silver because it's at historic levels of overboughtness. If overboughtness is even a word. It is when regarding the monthly RSI. Oh, where the hell is it? I guess I don't have an RSI. There it is. 92.97 is your current monthly reading on the RSI. I don't want to buy silver when that's going on, right? We want to buy silver in and around the 50, and those real good buys are in and around oversold, right? It's an appreciating asset. You've only ever gotten one, I don't know what all that is, but let's call it from 67. You've only gotten one really good buy signal on silver. And that was at a price of $4 a coin, or $4 an ounce. Really good opportunity to buy silver then. Really good. But nobody was buying silver then, because back then, I guarantee you, all the retail traders were saying silver's going to zero. Yeah, no, it's not. So I don't want to be a buyer here. And I imagine not many people do. In fact, I would imagine a lot of people are liquidating silver they've been holding for years, hoping it would double or triple or quadruple in value. And it has. I'm not going to sell the rest. I have sold silver last year. I sold silver at 47 or something like that. So I more than doubled my money, but I'm not going to sell any more of it. In fact, the next time we get, which I'm not going to be looking for a monthly overbought level on silver, I will be more than okay with buying a weekly overbought level on silver, because that happens more often. As you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, just going back to 08, you've had 6 chances to buy silver at heavily discounted prices. Heavily discounted. Same scenario right now on MicroStrategy. Not only is it discounted, it's heavily discounted. So of course I want to buy some MicroStrategy here. And if I'm early, if it rolls over and gives us another leg of downside, I will add there too. Right? Now, this will be a terrible investment if MicroStrategy has to file bankruptcy in 07. But remember, the only way that happens is if Bitcoin continues to go down. If Bitcoin is going up, MicroStrategy's MNAV is no longer in the warning sign. So I guess the only question is Bitcoin going to go up? Or is it going to roll over and make new lows? I guess time will tell. I'm not going to have to go to the bank and borrow money if I do get stopped out of this position. I'm only buying it with an amount of money I can afford to lose. But I have set aside another amount to buy that secondary leg of overdoneness on the weekly. Really don't care what price that is at, because I believe Bitcoin will make fresh all-time highs. I don't know if it happens this year or 2027 or 2028. I just have faith that, and you can mark my words down right now. Today is January the 15th, 2026. I believe in my heart that Bitcoin will make all-time highs before January 15th, 2030. And if that's true, then I am more than okay with holding every cent of Bitcoin that I hold. If it can make new all-time highs in 4 years, that's a great investment. Not many things can almost guarantee fresh highs in 4 years, but the Bitcoin chart can. It has, it is, it always has. It has never not made fresh all-time highs in 4 years. It always does. Every 4 years make fresh all-time highs. So many people are so concerned about the 4-year halving causing a bear market, and not enough people are telling people that this is when you should be buying Bitcoin. Going by this chart, you shouldn't be selling right now. You should be buying. But I get it. Big red candle mean go lower. It could go much lower. And I'll be buying it if it does. Because 4 years is no time to wait. That's if you bought all-time highs. Investors do really good when they buy Bitcoin when it's oversold. Maybe not on the daily time frame, but they definitely do good when they buy on the weekly oversold time frame. I mean, that has marked some of the best buying opportunities in Bitcoin's entire history. Yes, it did continue to go lower, but that does not matter because where is it now? That's what matters. Yeah, Bitcoin is also getting ready to tag that 50 on the weekly. That's another area of potential resistance for technical traders. So technical traders will be looking to short Bitcoin here. They will be looking for that secondary leg, that fractal move, right? That expansion, retraction, expansion. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're hoping for. And that's what they're positioning for. And they may be right. I'm not one to say that sellers right here are wrong. I'm a trader. I make trading decisions every single day based on different information. So I could be a buyer on Bitcoin today. Long term, I'm a buyer always. But to protect my long only portfolio, I do short Bitcoin. I do capitalize on these down moves. Absolutely. You can add to your Bitcoin portfolio by doing that. Build a big Bitcoin position and never have to pay a single dime for it of your hard-earned money. Just by simply clicking buttons on your mouse. It's such a great time to be alive. Our parents couldn't do this, and our grandparents definitely couldn't do this. You, especially if you're young right now, like sub 25, sub 30, I can't even fathom what kind of amazing technologies you're going to have as a middle-aged individual. We have some fantastic technology to set in my own home and make financial decisions based on what price is doing. Yeah, sign me up. I like that. But once you get back above 101, you're not even in a bear market anymore. So the question then becomes, is Bitcoin done? Like, are the lows in? I really don't know. I can't make that determination. But I can let you know when I am bearish and when I am bullish, and I am not bearish right now. But that doesn't mean you can't put on shorts here. We tried to short Bitcoin last week. We put on a short last week on Bitcoin, and we got stopped out of that short. So I think this week is too early to put that short on. However, next week might not be. So what we're going to watch for next week, me and my community, that is, we're going to see, where is the current weekly high on Bitcoin? If this ends up being, because today's Thursday, I don't think it will. I think you'll probably see 99 or maybe 99.5-ish. And then that might end up being the weekly high. Next week, we'll be watching to see, can Bitcoin show us bullish continuation above that price? If it can't, next week, we might have a bearish bias on Bitcoin. If it can't trade above this week's high, then absolutely I'll put another short trade on it. Yes, I will. Because this structure does look bad. I know this was a buying opportunity, but what I don't know is, did everybody take that opportunity or not? It looks like they did for now, but obviously if we make new lows, the answer to that question will have been no, they did not. So I would love to be short 97, 939 if Bitcoin does in fact go down to that oversold level, because we didn't hit oversold yet on Bitcoin. So if this cycle is going to rotate all the way back down to oversold, then I definitely would love to hold a short position on Bitcoin from 100K, because there's no telling how low that oversold level could be. I think around 50 would mark the bottom. And if it doesn't, then Bitcoin is doing something that it has never done before, which is make a lower low percentage-wise in a 4-year cycle. Every single bear market low Bitcoin has made in its entire history has been higher. The first was like 86%, then the next one was 82, then the last one was 77. So Bitcoin has to stay above 77% in order to stay as a growth asset. And 77% is way lower. It's like down to 30K, I think. Yeah. 30 grand gives you 76. So 77 is going to put you under 30 grand. You're going to be in the 20s, high 20s, but still the 20s nonetheless. That is if Bitcoin pulls back 76%. The weekly 200 exponential, or the weekly 200 simple moving average is at 57 right now. And Bitcoin hasn't really put a whole lot of like much deeper lows in below that. So here's the 200 week. And you can see you did get under it through here. And you did even get significantly under it. So if you break below the 200 simple, which right now is at 57,068. Okay? If you get below that, say, oh, I can't, it's not going, let me take this off. Let's see, what did it drop below it last time? It dropped a cool 37% under that 200. So instead of being a buyer at the 200, maybe like if you're closing weeklies under it, maybe wait for a deeper correction under it if you're trying to nail the exact bottom. I think most people will be good to just get it at 55. But let's see what it did the time before that. So here, during the pandemic, you blasted through it and put in another move about 29% under it. And then here, you didn't really get under it. And then right here, this is when you had 200 weeks. So there is no data going forward beyond that. And Bitcoin has a lot more participants in it now. And then the first time ever, you got 15% under. And that pretty much marked the low. So yeah, I'm not saying we can't get even lower than the 200. That's absolutely a possibility. So 40% under the 200 makes you roughly right at about 34 grand. So I would say if you get a low into 30, you should buy that hand over fist. As fast as you can, as much as you can. As that will be pretty damn close to the bottom. But I don't know that you see that again. Or at least anytime soon. Anytime soon. The macro right now just don't really support that big of a bearish move on Bitcoin. Now, if this infighting keeps happening with like the core devs and stuff like that, that could literally cause Bitcoin to go lower. If people don't have, what do you call it? If they don't have any, if they don't believe it or believe that there's like belief, right? If they don't have any belief that Bitcoin can be money in the future, what's the point in even owning it? And if the devs like have a hard split or something like that, that could really cause serious turbulence in Bitcoin. It did for Zcash. Why wouldn't it for Bitcoin? I mean, that's literally why I'm short Zcash. Is because of that. So there is issues going on out there that absolutely have some dev issues. And that could be really why you saw long-term holders selling instead of buying the highs back in July. So if you guys want to follow somebody who keeps a real good eye on the core of what Bitcoin is, like the code and the devs, then you should follow this guy right here. His name, I don't know, Matthew Kratner, Bitcoin University. I'm not saying you should buy into any of his courses or anything like that. Just he puts out really good free info on his YouTube channel. And he literally talks about, you know, core dev issues and all the problems that's going on within Bitcoin right now. So he's a pretty good follow. A pretty good watch. He knows a lot more about the code and stuff like that than I do. So that's why I follow him and I am subscribed. I don't watch every one of his videos, but I watch a lot of them. He's a really good follow. And he's also on Twitter, but I don't know his Twitter handle, so sorry. All right. The trends start. Oh, I read that part. Can you check Litecoin and XRP? Absolutely. Sorry. Let's go look at them. Litecoin and XRP. Got them both right here. Just making sure. There's Litecoin. So obviously this is a bad look. You're getting ready to cross on a weekly basis here on Litecoin. This isn't good. You are making fresh lows on Litecoin. You took out that dump low. This is 10-11. The day right here. This nasty move. It's 10-11. It's October the 11th. It was the Black Swan event. It is the day that $20 billion got wiped out. From Bitcoin alone, it was probably in the 50s and 60 billion crypto wide. I don't know. Or maybe it's 20 billion crypto wide. I don't know. But that day was bad. Litecoin is making fresh lows under that. I wouldn't be looking at this as a buying opportunity on Litecoin. Now, it could be simply because maybe it was just a liquidation run. But you're getting ready to put in a death cross on the weekly time frame. That's not good, man. In fact, Litecoin hasn't really done much since it put in a golden cross. Now, there's a lot of points in here. You're looking at a high up to 147 and a low to 62. So Bitcoin did a lot of moving since it made a golden cross, but it didn't really ever trend up when it made a golden cross. When I see an asset like this, I have to ask myself, why? Did Bitcoin make fresh all-time highs in that amount of time? The answer is yes, it did. Did Ethereum make fresh all-time highs in that same amount of time? And the answer is yes, it did. Oh, why couldn't Litecoin? I don't know. So I don't love Litecoin as a long-term investment because of that. If I look at the long-term charts on Litecoin, all I see here is a super volatile asset class that literally maybe has already seen its best days. Now, that will begin to be false, right? If Litecoin does not make fresh lows under 40 bucks. So maybe, right, if you see downside continuation on Litecoin, maybe 40 bucks is a better buy than 70. But what I would need to see before I would be willing to buy, and I would be a willing buyer up into the 55s even. So anywhere between 55 and 40 bucks if it can hold those prices. Now, it may not get down there, and for anybody's sake who's holding Litecoin long term, I hope it doesn't. I hope it finds a low soon and then starts trending up. But this chart looks like its best days are behind it. Or at least, let me say it like this, at least the general public doesn't think Litecoin's got it in it. Maybe it needs some news, or maybe it needs some research and development. I don't know what the future holds for this product, but I definitely do not like what it's doing long term. So for me, the only thing I would be doing on Litecoin right now is selling it. And I wouldn't be selling it down here. I would be taking profits on that short down here. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a long-term holder, I don't think you should sell here yet. But if you start to break these lows At what point do you begin to sell, right? How much lower are you going to allow it to go is the question. And that will be up to you to decide. I definitely don't like what it's doing during a week that Bitcoin is up. Think about that even. Like, Bitcoin is doing great things this week. Litecoin just made fresh lows. This looks disastrous. Hopefully it stays. It's not even above that low right now. It's below it. It looks like you're seeing a complete washout. That is not good. Litecoin looks really bad. I don't want to be a buyer on anything that can't trend up. It might eventually start to do that. And in that scenario, then I would probably be more interested in buying it if it could show me that it's done making lows. But until it's done doing that, I have to be a seller. You're making fresh 3-4 month lows here. That's never a good sign. And these sellers are selling it today. They're aggressively selling it today. They started aggressively selling it yesterday. There might be bad news on Litecoin. I don't know. But if I bought Bitcoin like in December and I bought Litecoin in December, I'd probably be getting out of Litecoin right now. I'd be mad if I bought Litecoin in December, especially on a day where Bitcoin's down today, but it didn't even take out yesterday's low yet. Litecoin is making fresh weekly lows, fresh multi-week lows. It looks bad. I think this has a huge part to do with Litecoin is in the same sector with XMR and Zcash. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, when I asked Grok to show me the entire sector for cryptocurrencies that are traded in the realm of privacy tokens, this was one of them. It was like the third on the sector. It was XMR was first, then Zcash, then Litecoin, then Dash, then a couple others, right? So I don't know if what's going on with Zcash is hurting Litecoin right now. Could be. But the same thing I'm doing to Zcash, which is selling it, that's exactly what I'd be doing with this. I see no reason to be a buyer of Litecoin yet. And your other one was what? XRP? Let me just pull that up. I know I have it on the watch list, but let's type it in. XRP looks like it's doing pretty good. It is up on the year, which is good. There is your yearly open. So as long as that is a factual statement, I like it, at least for the near term, right? So remember how I said I don't want to see Bitcoin retesting its 21 average, daily 21 exponential. XRP is currently doing that. I don't like that. I never like to see that. When I see a good solid bullish bounce off of that, I want to see higher lows form. You do have a daily supply zone or demand zone you can watch right here, but you don't want to see daily candles closing under that. If this area holds moving forward, this could be a short-term buying opportunity, and you could target $2.19. You could pick some up at 207 and flip them for 218 in a sense, if you want to be like a more active trader. As far as a long-term hold goes, I would not want to see fresh monthly lows, but I guess if it could hold the 786 retracement of its monthly range, That's as low as I want to see it go. If it goes any lower than that, there's a really good chance you're going to retest the yearly open, and I'd just get out. I want to see XRP continue to have growth in order to be bullish. It's got growth on the near term. So perhaps that moving average, that 100, is what caused the selling pressure. We won't know, right? It could be a myriad of different reasons why people are selling it, but at least on the near term, $1.94 is as low as I could be a buyer. And that's for 2026. For the entire year. If it's ever under $1.94, I don't want anything to do with it. So hopefully that helps. If you're looking for near term, like intraday scalps, yeah, daily demand is where I'd want to see it hold, but I definitely do not want to see that low taken out. You take out that low, then not great. Then that means this entire bullish move has been retraced, which isn't a good sign. So, I mean, you can compare it with others, like what is Ethereum doing right now? Well, it's making higher highs. Same scenario as Bitcoin. Ethereum has not yet, or is not yet, trading under yesterday's low. So at least on the near term, Ethereum is still very constructive here. Whether or not this holds all day is a question that needs to be asked around 8 o'clock tonight. Or 7 o'clock to be exact, because that's when you start the new day range. Yeah, it looks okay for now. Bitcoin is still down 0.6%, which is a nothing burger as far as being down. S&P's up pretty good here, but the rest of the crypto market looks like dog snot. Jelly's down 20 today. The jelly got cream puffed. Go ahead and throw some cream in that jelly. It is cooked. Got absolutely destroyed. This, I have no idea what it is. It's garbage, probably. Let's see. What is boom, 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 boom. Jasmine's even getting beat up pretty bad. Doge is down almost 5. Solana's down almost 3. Okay, so Solana looks worse than Ethereum. Solana has taken out yesterday's low. So still looks okay, but this at least gives me pause. So you did the same thing on this day. Okay, so it's not the end of Solana. But yesterday it didn't make a higher high. Yesterday it was an inside day. Today you've smoked that low. So I don't want to see any near-term new day lows. I want to see those lows begin to absorb and start to see that, sideways consolidation at least. Then maybe you could make the argument that buyers are defending those lows. If it continues making fresh day lows all day, then I don't know. Could today be looked at as a pullback only in context of the weekly range expansion? The answer is yes. It is a pullback only. You are not making fresh weekly lows. It is just fresh 2-day lows. So you're still looking pretty good on the weekly range. The midpoint of the weekly range is going to be super important for, next week trades. If you close the week out under the 50 retracement, which is where yesterday's low was, that is a little bit more dangerous. So you definitely want to see the week close above 142 on Solana. Otherwise, a deeper pullback is coming, right? Or could be coming. We never know. But yeah, that wouldn't be great. Now, could I still be a buyer down there? Yes. Yes, I could, as long as you don't make that lower weekly low. Then, So there are going to be areas that I wish to see defended, but only to a certain extent. You start making fresh weekly lows, then I'm a seller. I'm looking for shorts. As long as it's staying above its daily 21, I'm okay with it. All right. Lunar says, still keeping an eye on the BOJ. Yeah, I am. Yesterday it was up. I didn't see what it's doing today. It's right under me. It's neutral today. So, yeah, today it's down. No, it might not be. It could still be up because the USD is up. So let's go look at just the yen futures. It's down slightly. Yeah, yesterday would have been a potential short op. As long as it's under 63, 64, then it's okay. But I mean, on a worldwide, like looking at, knowing that the BOJ owns like 1.4 trillion of US debt, I don't like seeing this. Because could they need to sell their US position so that way they can generate enough liquidity to defend their own currency? You see what I'm saying? If that starts to happen, that's a very bad scenario. But to be honest with you, I don't see strong Japanese yen being a good scenario either, not for risk assets. It's a pickle out there, man. There are some things that the macro suggests that a recession is looming, but it's only some. It ain't all of them. Yeah, super weak yen is bad because it could force the BOJ to have to intervene. And if they have to start selling US treasuries to do that intervention, you could see a real bad situation unfold. Because if the US is having a hard enough trouble just defending what China's doing, right? It's hard enough to find, you got to find super rich countries to be able to pick up that slack or that sell side pressure that the BOC is, or the PBOC, whatever it's called, right? You got to find someone else to pick up that slack. And the problem is China still has another $700 billion of US treasuries. They have dumped $700 billion so far. They have $700 billion more. So the US has stopped that first influx of sell side pressure, but can they stop the secondary wave? And then if Japan gets involved also, it could be devastating for the US. That is a risk. Absolutely. We're well aware of it. Yep. I'm keeping my eyes on it. For sure. There wasn't any trades that we could take this week in the Forex markets because the dollar was super choppy. I told my girl last night, I wish I would have paid attention, or this morning. I can't remember if it was last night or this morning, but I remember telling her, I wish I would have been paying more closely attention to the dollar yesterday, because I could have got us into a trade in Forex, right? I would have been able to potentially get us short euro yen or something, but I can't really do anything when it's piano keys. When it's printing piano keys like that, I can't do anything. But what we could have been doing for sure is watching daily res or even potential intraday levels to look to put that short trade on. But that trade was done. It was on Tuesday, so I haven't opened any Forex trades this week. Unfortunately, the dollar isn't trending. When the dollar isn't trending, it makes the whole Forex market garbage. Now, obviously, the euro has been trending down for a while now, but we had a bearish bias on the dollar. See, the dollar milkshake theory guy, I mean, I forgot his name, but he thinks that the Chinese selling, and if that sparks more selling of U.S. treasuries, that's actually going to cause the dollar to be very bullish. I have also seen proponents on the opposite side of him saying, no, that'll be very bearish for the dollar. But he's been right for a long time. And I don't mean like year over year or quarter over quarter, but he's been talking about the dollar milkshake theory for years, like literal years. Since I think the first time I heard him mentioning the dollar milkshake theory was back in 2019. All right. But you can see the clear trend that the US dollar has been making since 2011. It's literally been trending up. Now that trend is being dealt with here right now. But if you see what I see on just recent near-term intra 6-month range type of stuff, the dollar is defending the lows. That is the low. We anticipated a breakdown here. It didn't happen. Then we went up and liquidated the top side of that range, which was August's high. Then we put in this downside move that lasted for 2 months. And where did it bounce? October's open. So you can see why I said earlier this morning at the when the stream started that the dollar sellers, if they're looking to keep downside trend continuation going, or at least the last 2 months, then this is where they got to show up. If they don't show up here, the dollar's going to break out back to the upside. And what do we see going on with these lows? That's a low. There's a higher low, higher low, higher low. Oh shit. Yeah, this ain't good, guys. This looks like we're about to see the dollar break out. So if that happens, then we're going to have a sell side bias on things like euro dollar, pound dollar. Yeah, that's going to heavily influence all these cross pairs too. So I got my eye on the dollar and the JPY as well. Right now, the USD JPY, I cannot be a seller on it, unfortunately. We thought we could, and we were wrong. The USD JPY has completely reversed its 2025 trend. Its 2025 trend started off down. So when we traded back up into here, we wanted to be a seller, anticipating that this was nothing more than a bear flag. When we didn't get the breakdown, we got stopped out. So we were wrong there. You can also see that I wasn't the only one that was wrong here, because look what happened here. Kaboom! So it wasn't just trade talk, right? It was worldwide. So when you broke out here, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. So the trend has commenced back to the upside. I can't be a seller on USD GPY. It is trending to the upside. Looks like it wants to go higher. So with that being said, as long as November, well, it says MOV, M-O-V, as long as Movember's high stays intact, I would probably be a buyer there. Unfortunately, that ain't good, because if this keeps going up, that will force the BOJ's hand. Last time they forced their hand at like 162. You're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from that, man. I don't know that they're going to intervene at the same price. I'd say they'd let it go a little bit more, maybe. But I know they don't want it even up here. Because that means whatever they did to defend it has failed. All that liquidity has been chewed up and spit right back in their face. So now they got another thing. Yeah, we're watching it. We don't love it. But I can make both the bearish and bullish case for risk assets on higher dollar yen. I can make the bearish case because if the BOJ is forced to sell U.S. treasuries, that could cause, that would be actually bullish, wouldn't it? That would actually cause asset prices to rise as the U.S. dollar starts going into inflation. It will be inflationary because then the Fed will be forced to print. And asset prices rise when the Fed is forced to print. Yeah, there are bad signs out there. Real bad. And all because China don't want to play with the regular rules that the rest of the world does. That's the reason why the U.S. is mad at China. Because China steals proprietary information, then makes it and puts it out on the market way cheaper. So China doesn't play with the same rules. They literally steal invention and then sell it for less. And then they get mad when they play dirty games, when they get fined or whatever. They don't want to play with the rest of the world's rules. Right now, China has gotten back to their old 4,000-year heritage of we must rule and control the entire world. The U.S. ain't going to allow that to happen. The world looks pretty rough moving on, no doubt. Unless diplomacy can succeed, it's hard to say what happens to risk assets. And I know, like, one Bitcoin channel, I watched a guy this morning, he was literally talking about how this is good for Bitcoin. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're like licking your chops thinking that the U.S. economy and the U.S. dollar is going to fail. Like you think somehow that'll be good for Bitcoin. Like it could in the near term. But let me explain something to you. If you crash the financial system, people start eating other people. They won't want your Bitcoin. They will want your cans of corn and your bullets. You see what I'm saying? Bitcoin will be useless to a bunch of wild animals. You are literally going to be like, hey, can I trade you some Bitcoins? Well, first the question is going to be, hey, do you even have electricity? And then do you have the internet? Because you won't have any of that stuff. If the US dollar fails, you won't have anything. It's not good for Bitcoin if the world goes into chaos. Actually, what will happen is World War III. And it will not be, you will be not safe anywhere. You will be in a bunker hiding and hoping you don't run out of food. That is not what we want as Bitcoiners. We want the world to flourish. That's good for Bitcoin. A flourishing economy, a flourishing world. That's good. That means internet magic money can have value. If there's no currency to buy Bitcoin with, then there's no point in owning Bitcoin. We don't want the world to crash, but he does. I welcome a recession. We haven't had a healthy deflationary trend for the real world economy in a substantial amount of time. I agree. I think a near-term recession could be good. I mean, we had a bear market in 2025. It didn't last for very long. I think you mean like sustained, potentially. Yeah, it could be good. But it doesn't look like any politician is willing to do that. They just keep kicking the can down the freaking road. They would rather argue about, can a man give birth or not, than what should we do about the rising debt problem? Like literally, it's first world problems from spoiled, rotten brats. We deserve what's coming. It sucks, but that's what it is. You literally got the left wing of the political side telling their constituents to literally track down ICE agents. And what are you doing? Like, there are bigger things to worry about right now than who is a he or a she or a they or a them. Like, seriously? That's what you're worried about? Well, I hope while you're in a work camp learning how to speak Mandarin, starving to death, you realize just how silly it was to argue over something as stupid as that. No, we got real problems in this world. The whole eastern side of the world is a huge problem right now. Do you realize that the EU can't even go to war if World War III were to happen? They're not even ready. Literally, it'll be the US that saves the world if the US does. If that happens. I don't think China does that. I think they just want to flourish. But I'm not, like, they have to play within the rules. They don't want to, so we'll see. It'll be fun. That's a joke. It won't be fun, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully diplomacy wins. That's why, I have to assume that's why Trump was elected, right? Because Trump is a fantastic businessman. You can hate him for his policies all you want, but the man knows money. He knows money, and he knows money good. Like, he's not even beating around the bush. Why did we go in and why did we take out that guy in Venezuela? Oil. We want to stop Russia and China from getting all that oil. There are enemies. That's why. It's nice to hear a man tell the truth. Yeah, if they get that oil, they can go to war. Right? If they have tons of oil, they can project war. They do have the biggest navy in the world right now. They can project war across the world. Yeah, they don't want them to have that oil. We're trying to diplomatically fix a very bad situation. I don't know if he can or not. How does Bitcoin prevail in all of that? Your guess is as good as mine. I'm here for it, though. I will short it all if I have to. Won't be worth anything, but I'll short it. If it rolls over, we'll short it. If it breaks out, we won't. It looks good here still. I love what it's doing today. So I don't think this is a threat for this year either. Let's be clear. If the world does fall into war, I think it's later. I think it's 2028, 2030, 2032. Like, I don't think it's within the next 2 years. I think there's enough resources and enough stuff out there already that it doesn't result into violence. Hopefully it doesn't. The left is already acting violent. I doubt it. I don't have much hope in humanity anymore, man. I did back in 2020. I was a huge optimist. Then they started acting like the Gestapo. Where is your papers? What papers? Papers that said you got a shot. We don't do that here in America. Merca. Yeah. It's been a crazy clown world since 2020. And we're still living in it. And it's just getting worse. You got people not caring about billions of dollars being spent into fraud. Hello, we can't afford that. We can't afford to be giving away free money right now. We need to rein it in. Bitcoin looks good today, guys. It's late week, Thursday. We're going into Friday. I'm getting off my soapbox now. We're going back into the trading. We're still holding the Zcash short. I'm not looking to close that. I want to continue to hold that unless it breaks back out. And the breakout point is today's high on Zcash, or yesterday's high, sorry. But I think this is as far as it goes. I'm wrong when it continues above there. Okay? So if it's trading under 480 Zcash, I like it lower. If it's trading above 480, I don't know what's going on anymore. It could go higher. So I'm not loving the short any longer at that point. Next place to look for shorts is all the way up here. So I hope it rolls over here. If it is going to roll over, I don't hope it rolls over because of people who are holding it long. Obviously, I want you guys to prosper. But you guys should be a little bit concerned, at least with the price action you're seeing. If I'm shorting it, that literally means the trend is now heading in that direction, right? So you should seriously think about maybe taking some profits while you have them, and don't wait until you don't have them to wish you did. Like, it's simple. But yeah, I like it lower until they get new devs on board. So maybe keep eye on that news. If that happens, maybe Zcash finds a bottom and starts heading back up to all-time highs. But as long as people are afraid, then Zcash will probably suffer lower, right? That's what we're looking for there. And then Bitcoin, I'm long and strong, and I will be long and strong as long as it's closing dailies above the 21. I do realize that the weekly 21 is just above us here, and that could cause some near-term chaotic price behaviors. You're also tagging the 50 right now. Like literally, that's this green line. That's your, usually Bitcoin is doing good when trending above the 50 on a weekly basis. You can, oh, I just deleted it. Control Z undoes the deletion? No? Alt Z? Oh, what is going on? Why is Control Z not working, Wes? I bet my computer's lagged up or something. This is lagged up. Control Z, yeah, it's control. It's not working. It's not bringing it back. That's okay. I got 8 charts. We can go delete all of them. Here we go. I got it over here. Let's get rid of all the lines. EMAs, we want to pull up just the 50 here, and we want to go back to the weekly. So whenever Bitcoin's doing really, really well, or, you know, in an uptrend, you can see how that 50 kind of acts as support. Now, you do get wicks under it, but it's the closes that count, right? Closures. You could not close under, and then you reversed in the opposite direction. So if that similar thing happens here, then you can be a seller. You got 3 days and 7 hours. So I'm not faulting anybody for putting on a short here at all. This is resistance. It's the most important price at this point moving forward for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin cannot close weeklies back above 97,623, then Bitcoin is still weak on the near term. When you're closing weekly candles above that, then you can say Bitcoin is probably resuming its uptrend. But what we generally like to do here in this community is we like to give it some time. We're not going to get super bullish if we close above it this week. We understand that it's what happens after that counts. One close above does not mean that it's done going down. However, one close above could mean that. So the very next week, we would be looking for, you know, more or less upside continuation. Once you start closing weeklies under, or if you fail to close weeklies above, then you could potentially still have a bearish bias. The last time Bitcoin did lose the 50 here back in 2022, remember, everything was different back then. Everything. The macro was different. Technicals were different. Bitcoin was different. Everything was different. But you did get that strong close above, and it was not good enough. 3 weeks later, you were right back under it. That was a sell signal. So if we do something similar here, we will go back to selling or targeting short entries, not selling I'm not selling my cold storage holdings. I'm not selling Bitcoin. I'm adding Bitcoin. And I will, because I have optimism that the world will be fine. So as long as the world will be fine, I want to own Bitcoin. If the world's going to shit, I don't want to own Bitcoin probably. Because I mean, you're going to trade Bitcoin for gold or what? Like, yeah. But anyways, 50 right there. Keep an eye on it. Very important moving forward. But I've been having a bullish bias all week. This is where I'd be taking profits if you got long at the open this week or anywhere after the open. So you should be, at least a little bit cautious in here. Bitcoin on the daily chart looks really good. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it does. This week's close will be important. And then 2 weeks after will be super important. Love it, though, long term. I think it goes up. I don't think we see a secondary bear market leg, is what I'm trying to say. But we will look for that if it fails to get bullish continuation above the open. Above the 50. I like the 21 better. I think it does a little bit better of a job. But in this scenario, they're really close to one another. So it doesn't really matter which one you favor, right? They're both right here. So, yeah, we're into resistance. This is the most important price for 2026. It was December's high. It is now this. We'll see what happens with it, and we will position accordingly. Zcash going back up right now for that potential sell side entry again. This is what we got to see. Does it hold? We want to see this December open hold as resistance. We don't want to see candles closing above that. The lowest I would go is be 30 minute. If you're closing 30 minutes back above that, if you've taken out that 30-minute high, you got to be very cautious about the short side continuation, or at least for today, tomorrow. But as long as you're under the December open, I like it lower. We'll see. Any other questions? We're going to wrap this up. I absolutely see what he's talking about. Stablecoin issuers would be scooping the treasuries that sovereign entities are dumping. Yes. While also having the stables exposed to the general populace. Yes. Yeah, I mean, things could change. Things could change on Bitcoin. If the daily starts breaking down under the April 2025 high, then I will be leaning towards we got a quarterly top. We could be putting in a quarterly top. We could be putting in a monthly top. Not on Zcash. Sorry. Wrong chart. We could be, but generally the way that I like to do this is if you're making higher lows and higher highs on the larger time frame charts, that is a good sign, not a bad sign. So I'm not just randomly picking for this spot to be the high, although it could be. You got an objective price right there that could act as resistance. The next one's going to be October low, but those averages are right on. They're pretty much right there. You've got a little bit of room here, but that's what you got. So a lot of shorts are going to be piling up here, no doubt. I will remain bullish and a buyer all the way down to $90,740. So when I put out Saturday's upload, I was looking for a swing back under last week's low to be a buyer this week. We did not get that. We did not get that swing. So when it opened, basically it just started going up all week. We didn't get the buy entry that we were looking for. So same scenario next week. If we're trading under this week's low, then I'm not looking to be a buyer. So that means literally you could put short trades on and target like midpoint-ish. There's no, it's not wrong to try to put on a short up here. I just don't know if it will work. We don't have the beauty of hindsight. I can't say giving Xiaoming, the rice farmer, entry-level access to the dollar via USDC is huge and also acts as an existential threat to the local currency. Dollar milkshake theory has been prevalent this decade, correct? And it is going up, right? It is trending up. All right, I don't know. Yeah, to me, there will be an obvious short and when happens, okay? If you want to understand about hidden divergence, put a line on the RSI October 27, 12 hour. Okay, let me do this real quick, because obviously it's important. Okay, so let's do this. 12H. We'll pull up the divergence signal. August. Okay, October 27, that's right here. This bearish day. So Alt H. Let's. Oh, I got the freaking drawings here. I mean, Alt V. So let's put a vert line there. Let's get rid of these lines, these lines. Let's just get rid of all lines. Remove 14 drawings, correctamundo. Let's do that. And let's put a new drawing right back here. Alt H, Alt V, shit. And then you specifically said, where is the first Bitcoin close above? It is lower, low, and higher. Okay. Okay, so this day, right here, and you're telling me October 12 hour, where is the first Bitcoin close above? It is lower, low, and higher. Okay, so there was no close above. It's below. This would be your first close below. Right there. That close is lower. Yeah, that's, you went from up here to down there. I'm still not understanding what you're meaning. That is normal. That's not hidden anything. That's, we want the indicator to go where price goes. I'm just not understanding you. It's my fault. It isn't yours. Put a line on the RSI. What kind of line? There's a line on the RSI. You mean a trend line? It's going down. Right? A horizontal ray. Oh. Okay. Alt H. From that high or from this high? Green line? 27th of October, the low or the high? There's two swings. You have a high swing, and that is Monday, 27. So, the high. Okay. So, I'll mark that with a horizontal ray as well. Okay. So, what you're saying is this high right here, and it was a lower. Is that what you're saying? Or are you talking about now? Like, yeah, for me, like, remember, check when the RSI closes above. Closes above what? Over here? Yeah, so you went from overbought to oversold here. This is one cycle. This is a cyclical event for the RSI. Right here. Oh shit, I keep doing the wrong one. So, I mean, this is one entire cycle. So anything over here wouldn't be relevant to what happened all the way over here. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so when the candle closes, the RSI ticks. That's where it closes. Where is the first close the RSI read you set? I don't understand that. This close is at 57.97. If I put it directly on the RSI, bro, I don't understand what you're trying to say. The next candle was a higher closing candle, but a lower high. Is that what the very next candle? I mean, anyway, so you're seeing hidden bearish divergence. I'll just give this to you. You're seeing hidden bearish divergence somewhere on this monitor. Okay. And you think it's similar to what we have going on over here. Okay. I'm so confused. Listen, it could literally be, yeah, I don't see it either. That's the problem. I'm just too dumb. I don't see the divergence. So listen, technical analysis, right? It is so very subjective. It doesn't really matter how you see technical analysis versus how I see technical analysis, right? There are no there's not really, like when you're talking about divergence, you must first understand that indicator is always going to diverge. First and foremost, it is an oscillator. So there will always be divergence, even if price literally never ever stops going up, 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 up. This indicator will diverge, and price can still go up, 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 up as the indicator keeps diverging. That does not literally mean that your trade will work, right? So there's really no point in even going any deeper than that, because the RSI and the math equation that makes it work, there is an automatic function in that math problem that says at some point it must diverge. So it does. It does. This is an oscillator. That's the difference between trending and untrending things. So there's always going to be divergences, hidden divergences and regular divergences, always. And I do realize that people take those as signals. I have no problem with it, but you're not going to be able to get me to see what you're talking about unless you do a video and let me see it, right? Because I don't see any divergence here. I don't even know if this line is correct, but price is trending down and so is the oscillator. Price is making lower lows and lower highs and lower closes, right? But it's the closes, not really the highs, that matter. It's the close. You can change the oscillator to go off on the highs, but the close, that's what counts. That's what gives it its tick. So there will always be divergence at some point. I look at RSI as cyclical first, and when you're from overbought to oversold, that is divergence playing out. So if there was any divergence in this price right through here, for instance, on this RSI, simply because price reacted negatively and so aggressively back to oversold, now you have a whole new cycle starting. So basically, anything that happened with these highs over here will not matter with this high here. So even if this high here went all the way up there and the oscillator didn't, this would not be bearish divergence, because the diverging signal already played out. This is a whole new cycle reset. And what we typically look for is for things to go from oversold back into at least the 50. And then if price stays strong, up to overbought. That is another cycle. Like, that's how I look at it. I look at it in terms of cyclical behavior, not looking for divergences, because I know divergences exist. It's hard to get me to sell the top of a market, first and foremost. Does it work? Yep, it does. But where is the edge? Where is the edge? Right here's your all-time high. Right here. So we go look at a 12-hour. I guarantee you there is divergence here. Well, to be fair, not yet. It's slowly grinded up. It's so overbought. I don't want to be a buyer here because I know an aggressive sell-off can happen, but I don't want to be a seller either. I don't want to do anything with this chart. The trade on this chart for us was right here, and we didn't take it. It was right here. We were bullish. This was the pullback we got into the New York session on Sunday. I understand there's no New York session on Sunday, but I do a live stream on Sunday, and this was the candle that was being printed when I did the live stream for my members only. And I said if I was going to buy in anticipation of a breakout, I was not talking about being a seller at all. I was not looking for a short on this. The reason is because of what has been happening in the prior cycles leading up to this point. We wanted to buy it, but I told my members I can't buy it because it's too overbought. I wish, is what I told them, I wish I would have got us involved here for the long. But if you would have bought that low, or even this close, if you would have bought either one of those two prices, it was the right trade, right? It went up. So I know retail has been selling this because I used to do it. I still occasionally do. Oh, I don't want to do that. Sorry. I want to get rid of that. So this is the all-time high. So all we need to do is play out one candle, two candle. I know retail was selling here. I know they were. They had overbought readings. They had everything they needed. You know why they were selling it? Because they missed the up move. So therefore, they had no other trade to take right here except sell it. I want to teach people to get out of that mentality because that is wrong. This is a fresh all-time high breakout. We would only be thinking about selling this if we got a 4-hour wick above and then a failure. Then we would put the short on in anticipation of taking profits when this low gets taken out. Then we get our money and we get out of the market because we know right here is where the buyers are going to be, or right here is where the buyers are going to be, or right here. You get what I'm saying? So when we're shorting super bullish markets like this, we're quick to get in and get out. We're just scalping it, like boom, boom, in, out, done. Because we know there is more of this coming. It's only a matter of time. When retail is selling this, they are telling themselves, I didn't buy it. I don't have a trade on, so the only trade I can do is sell it. They got stopped out. So then they do it again. They're winning. A smart trader would take profits here. A retail trader leaves it open because he's expecting a 99% 999 drop. And that's not how this works. It's a fresh breakout. This was an accumulation formation. This was a buying op, not a selling op. It did make these lower lows, but it didn't close under them. But we would have been looking to buy this. Like, yeah, get out of this let's sell the high mentality. The upside has unlimited risk. Unlimited. That means you can literally go broke trying to short it. There's no edge. Another trade we will look at is when alts get to like 94 or 95 on the 4-hour RSI. We will generally be looking for something then to potentially put on a position. But we always use extremely tight risk because we also know that it is super volatile. Super. Like you're printing a 95 on the 4-hour RSI. Volatile. And we don't take many of them. We take a couple here and there. But yeah, get out of that mentality, please. There is an old mantra. It's so cliched to hear people say it. I hear it. Heard it my whole life. But nobody trades like that. Nobody. You're either a seller at the highs or a buyer at the lows. There's nobody that trades the trend. If it's trending up, be a buyer. If it's trending down, be a seller. Nobody does that. And that's the way to make money. That's what you got to do. I don't trade divergences. I don't teach divergences because it goes against every fundamental principle that I hold, which is an asset that is blowing up to the upside can go up infinity. There is no edge. There is no bottom or no high, so to speak. We got to let the highs happen. All right, moving on. TLT's looking good here. This is what I really want to see. It's got a lot of work to do. I like it higher. As long as it looks like this. This is so messed up. I don't know why it looks like that. Yeah, it's down on the day. So it opened up and it's been pushing down. I really want to see this area act as support moving forward. If you lose this area again, then it's probably not done. Here's what we got on the monthly. So the next objective level of resistance, as long as we're above this, I think the very next price you're going to test is here, obviously. And then obviously to get above that would be beautiful, right? But the sellers, this is where the sellers are going to be next. They're going to be waiting right here. So I think anybody, I mean, it could fall, and if it falls back under, then it ain't going there. As long as it's above it, I have to respect this price. Though this will be the next resistance. If you could put trades on to potentially look to be a buyer around this area, target there. And you do not put trades on if you're trading under that. Simple as that. That's what I'm watching on the TLT. And I think you should do it with shares, because unless you're going out like 5 years on the puts or the calls, there's no real point. I put on a 47 or a 50-day trade down here, and all of the premium got sucked out of it while it ping-ponged back here in this range. But it's not really done anything until it gets above 88, 83. If it gets above 88, 16, then you can say there is a near-term uptrend. At least on the month. You can check like next month and be a buyer, but just if China sells all this thing's going down. It's not going to go up. If they unleash all their money into this, it'll go down. This has not been a good investable product since COVID, and the reason is because of how much money they literally print. The US government broke the bond market. And I don't know if they're ever going to be able to fix it. But it is definitely broken. And Zcash, obviously, I'm holding shorts on as long as it's under here. And we're going to wrap it up. No, you don't. All indicators crunch numbers and spit out a number, time and price, all you need ever. That's how I feel. But anyways, you're not talking to me. Can you please take a look at TRX? The chart amazes me lately, daily and weekly. Yeah. And then we'll wrap it up. I got to eat. Okay, yeah, this chart looks good. This chart looks very productive. It's only 30 cents. This is a very good looking chart. I hate these ginormous wicks. They might not be real. Yeah, they are real. So this thing is very volatile. It's probably got thin liquidity, but it looks really good. It looks like the lows are in, or at least the near-term lows are in. Kind of resembles Bitcoin. A little bit. A little bit. So October was the breakdown month for it. Yeah, I think this is where support is, or at least it should be. In my opinion, it's where it was this week. So never mind. Well, not never mind. If next week it gets back down here, as long as it's not continuing under that low. If you're continuing to make fresh lows under here, then support's going to be somewhere else. Maybe down into here or down into here, right? But moving forward, since you like the chart, it looks constructive to me as well. Let's see where that 50 is on the EMA. Oh yeah, this is a good looking chart. You're already above the weekly 21. This asset is more bullish than Bitcoin is. You tested the weekly back here and it held and up you went. Higher low, higher low, higher low. This is constructive. I like it higher. And I could be a buyer as low as here. So next week, in reality, I wouldn't want to see it get all the way back down there. I would like to see those lows come in much higher. So I don't see anything here on the intraday. Let's see. Yeah, you're in a beautiful trend here. Absolutely gorgeous. This day right here threw people off. But that's where you should have been looking to be a buyer. That would have been like the absolute perfect setup in hindsight, obviously. I get that. But something like that is what you want to look for. Because here's the thing. This was the expansion. This was a day that just chewed up all those orders. It's just a pullback. You gapped up and then you went down, similar to what Bitcoin did today. It had this really negative looking day. Don't get bearish here. Be a buyer. Same thing here. This pulled back, only it was higher. So today, higher. So you want to see that continue. Be hard pressed for me to buy it now because you're overbought. I think the best buys are down around the 50 on when they like first show up. So when this happened here, I would have been a buyer in here and I would have gotten stopped out, of course. But then this would have told me I wanted to be a buyer again. I want to show you right here. So you know what to look for moving on. You're overbought. What is this, dude? What is going on with this charting software? Invalid symbol, really? This thing is just falling apart. Perfect. All right. So right through here, this day is when you reaffirmed you were back over bullish. This is anything above 50 means the bulls are in control. Anything under 50 means the bears have control. So you got to be cautious of being a buyer under. But when you get back over it, this is the day that it happened. So I would have been a buyer anywhere at this price and up. You see what I'm saying? So it did trade sideways for many days here. Any one of these lower pushes would have been the buying op. It's once you break back under this that things begin to change. So as long as you're not doing that, these swings, these pushes back into this candle's range is your buying up. In a lot of cases, you can simply just watch the midpoint of this day right there. And that's where you're looking for to be a buyer, as long as this RSI is closing above the 50. And if you look, you got an absolute beautiful buying up right there. And if you missed that, you got another one right here. And then price worked the way it was supposed to work. This was a bear trap. But these are the best opportunities in my mind. Always. Forever and ever and ever. And you just have to remember that it might not happen in a single day. It could take multiple days to play out. Just don't lose your wad and don't go in like with unlimited risk, max position sizing. It's going in small with small leverage that makes you successful over time. Because you bought in at 28,205 right now, you'd be taking profits. You wouldn't be trying to buy up here, you'd be selling. But just to see what kind of a move that is, it's not a really big move, it's a 10% move. But if you're trying to be a trader, that's what you got to do. You're getting in, you're getting out. As far as a long-term investment goes, it looks good long-term. So there could be much more upside on this. The sky's the limit. It has been trending up. There's probably going to be a period in time where it needs to do like a long-term consolidation again. You're probably in that here. But it's a tradable range. It's very tradable. So, yeah, I'd be a buyer as long as it looks like this. As long as you're closing days above that 50, I think you could look to be a support buyer. But now you're getting a little bit overbought. It's probably going to need another pullback down into this area. If you start closing days back under it, you got to give it more time. You got to be more patient to see if it reclaims the 50 again. If it does, you're looking for longs. Good stuff. That's a good chart. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Looks good. All right. Yeah, TradingView has been down off and on earlier in the day. Yeah, it's been giving me fits all day. TRXBTC is awful stable. Okay, so I can already tell this asset doesn't have much liquidity in it. I mean, it could have a lot of liquidity in it, I guess. Those wicks aren't crazy, but it seems like every cryptocurrency I look at versus Bitcoin, it's very thin. These are 30-minute chart. This is a 30-minute candle. These are ticks. These are 3-tick candles. Okay, you got a tick, 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 tick. When you're doing this, it's no liquidity. This is market makers trading themselves, in a sense. They're just keeping the bid and ask moving. That's all they're doing, right? That's all they're doing. They're keeping order flow going, keeping the bid and ask moving. That's it. Nothing more. I don't like trading this because any spike in volatility can cause this thing to have nasty moves in both directions, both up and down. But even if you try to trade this, like, obviously you can see it happening, boom, 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 so you know, right? Well, damn, if it gets back down to 317, I want to be a seller at 319. As long as you're not paying more in fees, then you could do that. But in my experience, whenever this is happening, there's no money to be made. You could try to get filled here and out there because it is back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But if your account equity is going down and you're profitable like every other 30 minutes, then obviously you're paying more in fees than it's worth to trade. But yeah, I don't like these kind of charts. I don't trade them. I stay very far away from them. I need good liquidity. It looks okay on the larger swings, but yeah, there's not much in this. Long term, it probably is a little stable. Let's see. It's a rounding bottom. That's 50% off down there, though. I wouldn't want to see it get back down there. I would want to see this area hold as it did last time. So that was support. When it came back, I wanted to see that hold. And it did. You didn't even get there. But I'm just saying I could have been looking to be a buyer in one of these 2 months. Down in this area. If it didn't get there, then you always use the data you have, right? If it doesn't get to the level that you're definitely wanting to see it get to, you know you want to be a buyer here because of the last time it got there, that was a nice reaction, right? Big, huge reaction. So in theory, if it gets back down here again, you want to see the same thing happen. But it doesn't get there. So this month closes down. You would have been stopped out, right? You would have been watching last month's low. You would have bought last month's low. You would have got stopped out. But then when this month closes, you open a new month, you can watch the prior month low and say, I only want to be a buyer when price retests that this month. This month opens, you get down there, you buy it. And then what you really want to see is a close above the previous open. And then when you get above the high, you know you're in good shape, right? So, yeah, do that. Long term on these rounding bottoms. Not really beautiful buys on like perfect 50 tests on the monthly, but monthly support is monthly support. I hate being a buyer down here because it's already up on the highs off the range. You can see you're into resistance here, but I do like the higher lows. So eventually this thing probably does break. It's just when, right? So as long as you're not making fresh quarter lows, you can be a buyer all the way back down to here. If you make fresh quarter lows, you can't be a buyer because now you got to wait for higher lows again. So you could be a pullback buyer all the way down to 258 on this asset. I don't know. It's barely moving. It really is. This monthly range is very tiny. And you've been trading for a long time already. It's the 15th day of the month. There's very little movement happening here. It is very stable. Is it like stable coin? I don't know. I've never traded it. All right, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll see you next week, Tuesday morning, 9:30. Make sure you guys trade safe. Make sure you trade smart. And as always, happy trading, everybody.